All right. We are here. Welcome, everybody, to episode 300. We've made it. I'm one of your hosts, Randall Thor19, the man with the million. And with me, as always, we have a man with the new mic, Jez Corden. So bear with us because I had to get into a call with this man earlier today to work out his mic issues. As Jez, someone who always has mic issues, no matter what, whether it's the same old mic or a new mic, we had to work through the way it sounded. So hopefully it sounds good to you guys. Jez, say hi.
Hello. How does my mic sound? It's a new mic, and we spend a lot of time trying to set it up. I really hate audio stuff so much when it comes to streaming, podcasting, whatever. Audio stuff is always a constant source of annoyance, but hopefully it sounds okay. Let us know in the chat what you think. But hi, Rand. It's been an interesting week for Xbox stuff, and I think we're just getting started.
That is true. That is true. Nerds and Other Lids says, you sound fine. Tandil says, perfect. Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds 4K. So everybody says that you sound good, Jez. So our work before the show, it sounded good. Although there were some times where it definitely did not sound good. We had to work through the issues.
I was messing with noise gates and EQ and all that kind of stuff. Want to make it sound as good as possible. I don't know why. It's always weird with audio stuff, but we got there in the end, I think
we did get there in the end. But yeah, so this is episode 300, which is incredible if you ask me. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But this week's show, this is the second show, well, technically the third show of the week. We did Xbox 2 on Monday, episode 299. We talked about, what we thought would happen in the Direct. We talked about the Xbox third-party rumors, which we won't talk about again unless there's actually new information regarding it. Like, you got our thoughts then, and, we're not going to really bring that up anymore. And then Xbox 2 plus 1 we did on Tuesday with MVG, Modern Vintage Gamer. I thought that went really well. So anybody that part of the Patreon can check out that interview. It'll be live to everybody. It'll be live to everybody on Tuesday. And the Direct was yesterday. Xbox revealed 4 first-party games, as well as Square Enix showed up out of nowhere. Just kind of crashed the party a little bit, right? And so we're here to talk about, whatever we want to talk about, really. But
Dev Direct is the topic of the hour, I would have thought.
Well, it is
just before we get in depth. What do you think?
It is. We'll be going in depth and reminiscing about previous episodes of the Xbox 2. But yeah, I want to thank everyone for being here. We couldn't have do this show for this long without your guys' support. I honestly, when we started, I didn't think we would make it 7 years, 300 episodes, honestly.
It's been 7 years.
I mean,
I feel like every time you tell me, I forget how long it's been, but it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I mean, we started April of 2017. So it's not technically 7 years just yet, but it will be in a couple months. So for all intents and purposes, it is 7 years and 300 episodes. Honestly, I didn't think it would last this long. I'm not... If I had to say the truth, I don't know if it would be because I would have lost interest or you would have lost interest, because you're an in-demand guy, you Windows Central, got all these things. I just thought hey, maybe Jez won't be able to do it at some point, and then I don't know what will happen to the show after that. But here we are, 7 years later, still doing, still doing it big. So yeah. Someone says, Jez, the man with a million mic issues. He does have. That is true. Definitely, when you join, when I'm sitting there in the Discord call waiting for Jez, and he joins, and you just hear him go, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you?" And then it'll cut off, and it's like, geez, how do you have so many problems with your audio issues?
It's because I use different mics for different things. So like, I use a proper mic for this, but then when I'm raiding or something, I switch over to a different mic, and then sometimes when I switch back, something's messed up and whatever. But it should be sorted now. Now I've got the exact same setup in the UK that I have in Germany. So hopefully it won't. It'll make things sound a little bit more consistent, because I think sometimes when I'm streaming in the UK and Germany, you can hear more things than I would like you to be able to hear, like clicking and keyboard tapping. But hopefully it'll be less prominent issue now. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, Deadworth, Mean, and Silp will say there's crackle on your mic, which, I mean, I had noticed before. It's sometimes there's a crackle on his mic, and then sometimes they're not. I don't know. It was pretty bad earlier, and I thought we actually got it to a state where like it wasn't as noticeable, but I do hear it occasionally when you speak, Jez. But I mean, there's really no way to fix that now. But it was happening throughout the entire thing. So I don't know. Jez, for whatever reason, decided to actually get a new mic now instead of waiting after episode 300. But what are you gonna do? You know. Yeah, Deadware says it's gone now, but the crackle keeps on coming and going. Yep, that's exactly the problem I was telling Jez earlier.
Ah, that's so annoying.
Yeah. But some people hear it and some people don't. So, with all that said, thank you guys for being here. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and we're going to get into it. So, we do have a sponsor for this episode, right, Jez?
Yes, we do. Should you want me to read that out right now?
Indeed.
It's once again the illustrious people over at manscaped.com. So, Rand, roses are red and violets are blue. Trim your balls and your date will thank us too. What's up, fellas? Valentine's Day is knocking. The Manscaped is the remedy for what the love doctor orders. I haven't read this before, so it's cracking me up already. His prescription, the all-new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, designed to elevate your grooming game and shine like the heartthrob you are. Let's talk about the hero of the Valentine's Day, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra trademark. This electric trimmer features skin-safe technology, guarding your Valentine's Day treasure against any grooming mishaps. It also comes with the brightest LED spotlight yet. It's brighter than your best romantic smile. Perfect for precise grooming, even in the trickiest spots. Oh, and it's waterproof too, making shower shaves an absolute breeze. For the best boxers, formulas, razors, cologne, and much more, join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and snag 20% off free shipping with code XB2. That's code XB and the number 2 in the checkout at manscaped.com. And thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Yes, Rand, Manscaped is wonderful. You know, I doubled up on my microphone setup so I'd have a consistent microphone experience between Germany and the UK. And now I've also doubled up on my Manscaped experience.
Did you?
So I'd have a consistent Manscaped experience in the UK and in Germany. Because I didn't bring all of my Manscaped gadgets with me across. So I thought, man, I really miss... It's the shaver, man. As someone with a big beard, having the beard shaver is just... It's the best shaver I've ever had.
When you're in the UK, you got to look good for your side chick, right?
Oh my god!
Right, your side piece that you keep in the UK.
Yeah.
So you know your girlfriend stays in Germany, so you know what stays in the UK, what happens in the UK stays in the UK, right?
Yeah. Sure, man. I mean, I never go outside, so. But
this will be the one. This will be the one episode where she actually listens to the podcast and. Like, I'm tuning in this time, and then the first thing you hear is Jez's side piece in the
Rand
UK.
popping off. Bloody Rand.
Yeah, right? Like? So, yes, thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this episode. And we also have the wonderful people at patreon.com. We have Thurgus, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, Peter B, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trade, The Grandest a Bit, Battered Haddock, Armored Tude, 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey 99, Mockazilla, Randall Thor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Fantasticals, Halo is the Goat, Katriox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, PB Broking, Ace of T and Madison, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropy, Prof JJJ, Ghostface Killer, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Jez was a little late on getting up the question thread for the Patreon members. So head over now to patreon.com/XB2. Make sure you get your question in. Because normally that goes up a day or two before the show. It literally went up like as the show was going live. So, make sure you drop us a question about whatever, And, so, Jez, episode 300, huh? You have any fond memories of previous episodes? Anything that, sticks out in that, addled brain of yours? I already know the answer. Yeah, you're addled because your memory is not very good. And I already know the answer to the question because I'll be like, hey, do you remember any really cool moments for the show? And you're going to be like, bro, I don't remember last week, right? Let alone 300 episodes of Xbox 2, right?
I remember a lot of the memes, man. I remember a lot of the memes.
Uh-huh.
Some of your stories, man. Some of your grim, grisly stories from your youth. I remember those burned onto my brain, seared on there. Some of your epic misspeakings.
Oh, so you remember my misspeakings?
Wrench in a bucket.
Oh.
I remember that prominently, and the various other things. I think my favorite thing we ever done was the one chip challenge. I think that was so fun and so dumb. I really enjoyed doing that, even though it was miserable. But yeah, we just done a lot of cool stuff,
Yeah.
I really want to see how we can take it to the next level. There's a lot of stuff we could potentially do. And me, tentatively, I've been talking about maybe trying to meet up next year or this year even, somehow, some way. See how that works out, just see what happens. Plans always, change and evolve. Don't know what's going to happen in the near future. But we did talk a little bit about that, and I've reached out to some of the Xbox people about potentially meeting up in America at some point.
Yeah, so this is how Jez works. So Jez literally the other day was just like, hey, I'm gonna come to Chicago this summer. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, well, what are some good hotels to stay at? And then he was like, if I go to Chicago, am I gonna get shot? And I'm like, what? He's like, is there anything to do by you? I'm like, in the town I live in? Sure, but everything's downtown. He's like, yeah, I think I'll come. We'll come. We'll hang out. We'll play games. We'll do an in-person podcast. I'm like, where's this coming from? I was just like, okay. And then he was like, you know what? Let's go to Seattle instead. I'm like, let's go to Seattle. I'm like, why not go to Vegas? He's like, no, I'll go to Seattle. We'll go to
Vegas
Redmond.
Is too warm, man.
We'll be like, we'll get Colt Eastwood out there. We'll tell Cognito and have him fly in from New York. And I'm like, what is going on? We're planning this.
I was talking to Cognito, and he was like, we should get the whole ILP team in. So we're doing that now as well.
So everybody's gonna go.
All of ILP's going. Cognito's going. We're just getting.
Colt Eastwood's going.
Yeah, we're just getting everyone down.
Yeah, it just literally just came out of nowhere. It was just like, oh, by the way, I'm coming to visit you, and we're gonna go to Xbox, and we're gonna go to all these places. I'm like, out of nowhere, I was just like, oh, okay, we are. I was like, okay.
Yeah, we are, man. We are. We're doing it, and everyone in the chat's coming too. All of you guys are invited. Every single person.
All you guys are invited. You could have a meetup at a bar. Yeah. Serenity says you couldn't pay me enough to live in the crime-ridden Chicago state.
Oh dear.
I mean,
is Chicago spooky?
I don't know. I live in the southern suburbs, and it's perfectly fine here. I think
the burbs.
I think the whole Chicago is a crime-ridden thing is just really
A meme.
It's really just like it's just like, talking points by certain political parties to be like, look how bad Chicago is. It's like, yeah, people die in Chicago. It happens. You know what I mean? But it's like you go downtown. It's not like, oh, if I go downtown, am I gonna die? No, you're not gonna die if you go downtown, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that. We also have the Xbox 2 fantasy draft going on with our one.
Yeah.
Did you see my picks so far, Jez?
I haven't looked at your picks yet. But,
So I drafted Hollow Knight Silksong.
Going
out on a limb, hoping it's this year, right? I drafted.
That's a bit of a risk.
That was my first number. My second pick was Path of Exile 2, which also going out on a limb. That's coming this year. It's kind of hard when there aren't really a lot of announced games and there's like 15 people in the draft. So it's like the games that you were kind of looking for were taken, because I was going 6th in the draft. And then I drafted Little Nightmares 3, which I'm pretty sure will be this year, and I think it'll be a good game. So I was like, I need something that's at least for sure coming this year. Then, like, my 4th pick, I believe I drafted Metroid Prime 4, which, going out on a limb, it's this year. I was just like, please, Hollow Knight Silksong, if you're coming out, it's got to be this year. And I think if it does come out, it'll be in the 90s, right? And I think
I imagine so.
My 5th pick was...
unless they really mess it up somehow.
Yeah, and then my 5th pick was Still Wakes the Deep, because now you're getting to the thing where it was like... okay, well, now it's like... I see people drafting, like, Untitled Mario Kart game and Untitled Mario 3D platformer and stuff. Just games that don't even exist.
Just hoping that that'll be something else. Yeah, that's funny. I kind of haven't really done it very strategically. I just went for random games that I think I will enjoy. So I picked World of Warcraft, Diablo expansions and stuff like that. And now I'm thinking like maybe my picks aren't so good. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. And let's take a look at some of these super chats, and then we'll get into our thoughts about the Developer Direct, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about with the Developer Direct. Newest member of the channel, Network Error 455. Thank you for supporting the show. Slithlord says, congrats on 300 episodes. You guys rock. Thank you. Silas says, congrats on 300. Here's to 300 more. Yeah, another 7 years. 7 years from now, we'll just be in a place where, I don't even know what the future of the game industry will look like in 7 years. That'd be 2031. And what I do know is that Fallout 5 still won't be out. And it won't be out for a long time. So
maybe Fallout's never coming out.
Sorry, Maddie. Sorry, Jez. You still got about another 10, 11 years to wait for the next Fallout game. Hey, Gringo. Thank you for the super chat. We got Donataku saying, Pal World is greater than Hellblade 2. Love you, Rand. I figured Don would say something. And yeah, Pal World is out now. It's on Game Pass. I think it's in early access on PC, and it's blowing up. It's blowing up big. Sold 1 million copies already on across all platforms, I assume. 300,000 concurrent players on Steam right now. It's the next big thing, Jez. Who would have thought Pokemon with guns would be so successful?
It's funny, right? I played it this morning.
Okay.
So if you want some quick impressions of it, I played it for about maybe 2 hours this morning. It's really janky. It's early access, and you got to expect that early access jank and the sort of Unreal Engine games in early access always have this sort of this judder and this lag and this sort of lack of optimization. But dude, the potential is so clear. It's Ark Survival Evolved. They've copied every aspect of Ark Survival Evolved, basically, but then layered on top this sort of quite impressively intuitive 3D Pokemon kind of system. So you literally have Pokeballs. There's literally Pokemon out in the world. You can literally just capture them with a Pokeball and then summon them with a Pokeball, and they'll just automatically attack your target, kind of like, an NPC follower kind of thing, in real time. And then you can craft guns, you can craft buildings, like Grounded or Ark Survival Evolved, and indeed, and then you can level up like Ark Survival Evolved, Conan Exiles, and all that kind of thing. So it just kind of works, man. It's really really cool. There's a lot of stuff that I would hope that they can improve. Like they've been out on Twitter saying they don't have dedicated servers yet. And they kind of implied it was an Xbox policy reason why they don't have dedicated servers, but then they deleted the tweet. And I've spoke to someone saying like someone misspoke, and that they're working with them on dedicated servers. I don't know if that's out there yet, but well, it's out there now. So there's a lot of stuff, but there's this huge amount of potential for this game, I would think, and yeah, it's fun. Like the core gameplay loop, it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun as hell, but janky as hell. That's like what Ark was like when it launched. So, but it does. I think it does some things better than some of these other kind of games. Like the Pokemon summoning stuff is really intuitive, and the Pokemon like they will help you build and craft and stuff like that. They'll just waddle on over and they'll whip out a hammer and start building stuff with you. It's really funny. So I'm kind of I'm impressed with the game. I'm intrigued to see where it'll all go, and yeah, I guess we'll see.
Oh man, Pokemon on Xbox. Who'd have thought? And I already know people are probably gonna be like, "Hey, guess what? You need to play this game, Rand." And guess what? I never will. I ain't playing. I already played Pokemon one time. I'm not doing it. But I'm not really too surprised.
It's not really Pokemon, man. Like honestly, like it's got a Pokédex, but it's more like Conan Exiles or Grounded. Like that, the core gameplay loop is survival, crafting. There's a heat gauge, there's a hunger gauge. You gotta eat, you gotta cook. And by the way, it's really cool when you cook. You like whip out a frying pan and you're sort of like juggling the ingredients in the frying pan. Like it's just cool, man. What it is, right, is an evolution that adults who grew up playing Pokemon kind of want Nintendo to do. They want Pokemon to be a little bit more involved, I think. A little bit more like within the fantasy of living in a Pokemon-like world. I don't think anyone expected shooting a Pokemon with an AK-47. So I think they went a little bit left field on that one. But it's cool. And like when I was playing it, the world is huge and gorgeous. Like, and also there are giant Pokemon walking around. And it's kind of like, oh snap! I'm gonna need a rocket launcher to take that thing out,
Right.
And the Pokemon don't actually die; they like pass out. They're asleep, quote unquote. Even though you've plugged them with a shotgun, they're asleep. They're not dead. So it's just a weird game, man. But it works. Somehow it works.
Okay, fair enough. I finished Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. Since you're talking about Palworld, what you played. I know I talked about it at length on Monday, but I'll just reiterate that I love this Prince of Persia game. I can't see it not being in my top 5. I mean, obviously right now it's Game of the Year because there's the only game that's came out this year, but it is a joy to play. It is up there with Ori for like how to do a Metroidvania, all aspects of it, like the movement, the controls, the combat, right? I still think Ori's like the pinnacle of the genre. I know people be like, what about Metroid or Castlevania? I'm like the newer games. I think Ori 2, Will-O-Wisp is like the pinnacle of the genre. This Prince of Persia game is literally right underneath it. If like Ori's a 9.5, Prince of Persia is like a 9. You know what I mean? It is absolutely fantastic. I went and I got like 100% and everything. I think it took me like 27 hours to get 100%. And even when I was just looking at, getting all the extra health items or the extra ore to upgrade my weapons, I was still having a blast, like getting around the world. Like it's probably Ubisoft's best game in a long time. Honestly, I haven't felt this content and happy about a Ubisoft game since probably like Far Cry 5, which if when Far Cry 5 came out in 2018, we were doing the podcast, and I said, like, I loved Far Cry 5. And I used to be, like, a huge fan of Far Cry. But I just, after some point, it just kind of was like Far Cry kind of fell off for me. But I remember playing Far Cry 5 and just absolutely loving it. And I'm not sure I felt like the same way since, maybe Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But I think Odyssey was the same year, was it not? But either way,
yeah,
I adore this Prince of Persia game. I hope more people play it. I know, like, Ubisoft's kind of under attack right now because of what the guy said, right?
I was gonna say, like, that they had some momentum with goodwill building up, and then they threw it away by saying, well, if you read the full quote, it's
the
not
full
that
quote,
bad.
The
full quote's not that bad, but the headline quote has got them under attack.
But Jez, nobody's gonna do that. The headline quotes, all the people are gonna use to get their article clicks. Gamers have to get used to not owning their games. Now that is a spicy take. Now, of course, if you read the full quote, it's more like he's talking about live service stuff, right? He's talking about, like, those experiences. But still, you know how gamers are. They're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
There's...
I know how gamers are.
Oh, yeah. There's that physical defense force out there, right?
Yep.
Which Hellblade 2 is going to run up against. And we'll talk about that when we talk about Hellblade 2, but...
Not just Hellblade 2.
Not just Hellblade 2. What you mean, bro?
I mean, it's a trend, bro. It's not just Hellblade 2. There's going to be more games going digital only, I think, in the future.
More Xbox games? More Xbox first-party games?
More everything games.
So people are going to follow in the footsteps of Alan Wake 2?
Yeah.
Because Alan Wake 2 is a pioneer. They're like, we're not doing a physical release. But then, like, Alan Wake 2 didn't sell well. And the physical people are like, see if you only had a physical copy. Not the fact that it was a sequel to a 13-year-old cult hit that didn't sell well in the first place. And, I don't know, wasn't on Steam. Nah, the reason it sold bad was because there wasn't a physical copy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's a trend, man. It's a trend. It's going to be more and more games are going to be going digital only, especially the games that don't have an ongoing revenue stream, I think. So, get used to it, I would say. I would not be surprised if the PS6 and the Xbox Series X2 didn't have a disc drive at all. I would not be surprised the way things are going.
Interesting.
But like the disc drives are just a USB attachment, I'm sure they will have the disc drive option for people to play their backlogs, but I think, like, they'll go with USB, or USB-C or something, a USB external attachment for people who want to keep using it. But I don't think it's going to be standard, but we'll see.
Oh man, that'll definitely ruffle some feathers, right?
Potentially.
So yeah, play Prince of Persia. Whether you buy it for $50, I think it's well worth the money, especially if you really enjoy Metroidvanias. It's right up there with the pinnacle of the genre. Or I guess you could sign up and play it through Ubisoft Plus. Get it day one, or it's out now. I think fully for everybody, because it kind of had that early access period of like 3-4 days that Ubisoft sometimes does. It's weird because sometimes they do it for like Crew Motorfest. And they do it for Prince of Persia, but then they didn't do it for Avatar. So it's kind of weird what games they do early access for. I guess similar to Xbox, where it's like Forza Horizon has early access and Starfield, but, not certain other games. I would imagine something like Hellblade 2 is not going to have an early access period, right? But I guess this is a matter of, like, what you can kind of sell along with it. Like with Starfield, they were selling, you could get the early access and you also get the expansion. And Horizon was like, you also get the expansions with it, where, like, there's probably nothing else to really sell with Hellblade to offer something for early access. So yeah, Prince of Persia 2, love it, play it. And tweet me, message me how you feel about that game. Because I know I have gotten some messages, Jez, when I tweeted about me finishing it, that people are like, it's too expensive for what it is. What do you think about that? Like the idea that $50 is too expensive for a 2D Metroidvania.
I disagree, man. I mean, I love Metroidvanias, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. Metroidvania is one of my favorite genres to play. So if it's like super high quality, like it sounds Prince of Persia is, I haven't tried it myself yet. I got it installed, infinite backlog and all that, blah 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 blah. I would totally pay. I would pay more. I would pay $60. I would pay $70 if it was really good. I dream of a big budget Shadow Complex. You know, I
Mm.
loved Shadow
Shadow
Complex when I was
Complex was awesome.
so good. I dream of Shadow Complex. I dream of I don't know. You know, I love Metroid Dread. I really want to go back and finish that off. I've got a special place in my heart for Metroid. You know,
Hmm.
people who've been listening for a long time probably know this, but I was in hospital with sepsis when I was a kid. Nearly lost my arms and legs from an untreated appendix thing.
Yikes!
Yeah, I don't talked about this before.
I don't think so. You're so
Yeah, I
basically
nearly died,
you're gonna
bro.
be like roly poly Jez with no arms and legs.
Yeah, kind of. But I was it was it was spooky, man. Like the doctors were like, he's got 2 hours to live, and my parents were like,
What?
oh, I thought he just had a stomach ache. Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was crazy.
Oh, you mean our
So
son was complaining that he couldn't go to school because it hurt, and we thought he was just pretending? You mean to tell me he could die? Oh my lord!
yeah, I had a burst appendix in my stomach for like a week.
What?
Yeah, I
How
nearly
did
died,
wait?
man.
So your appendix burst, and
It burst, yeah,
and you were living with a burst appendix.
yeah, for like a week.
What?
And my dad was like, he's faking it to get out of school.
I did not
So
know this. This is
no,
new
I
info.
know. But yeah, when I was in the hospital and the God bless the NHS, you know, I survived with my arms and legs intact, thank God. And because all the poison like gathers up in your limbs, right, or something. I don't know, I can't remember. But it's but while I was in recovery, and I was in recovery for a long ass time, I had a Super Nintendo. And it was my first exposure to like high end at the time gaming. Up until then, I'd had a Master System with whatever 2D, whatever secondhand games I could get my hands on. But then I went to I went to a Super Nintendo at the hospital because they had Super Nintendo in the children's ward and all the games they had. So I had like Super Mario All Stars, first time ever playing Mario, and Super Metroid, and I played the hell out of those games. Like Metroid, I played it religiously, and I didn't have access to, obviously, no access to the internet, no access to anyone helping me, and sort of like trying to figure out my way through that map and that maze that was Super Metroid. It was like it really filled up all my time, and I loved it. I loved it so damn much. So Metroidvanias have a um a special place in my heart for that reason. So yeah, I would totally pay. I would play premium. I play more than premium for a high quality Super Metroid. If you know, indeed, it does have the depth and breadth befitting of the price point. Personally, I think it's totally worth it, and I think like I really hope that people do, you know, support Prince of Persia for two reasons. A, it'll remind Ubisoft that creativity can pay off, you know, and B, because I want high quality Metroidvanias
Mm,
to continue being made.
yeah.
I know people, a lot of people of a certain age, they have more nostalgia for the 3D Prince of Persias, and nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I think they are remaking the original Sands of Time, which is great. But I also think like these kind of games can also,
Which
you
in and
know,
of
help
itself is like a
support and expand a brand.
Prince of Persia: Sand of Times was kind of like a remake of the original game, right? In a way.
Yeah. Because the Prince of Persia back in the
Yeah.
day, long time ago, was a platformer, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love Metroidvanias, and I'm still kind of shocked that you lived a week with a burst appendix. How painful was that?
It was really really painful.
I
You
can
know, it felt like being punched in the stomach
Ugh.
repeatedly.
Ugh.
It felt like a slow motion punch in the stomach. It was horrible. I remember it really distinctly. And then like they only called the doctors. I started throwing up. I started throwing up constantly every 20 minutes. You know,
Yikes.
for like the whole afternoon. And they were like, okay, maybe he's not faking it. Maybe.
Right.
Rand, I've got to be right back for just a minute,
Okay.
Rand.
I'll get through super
I'm gonna
chats.
get a drink because throat's really dry. I'll bear it back 1
All
minute.
right. We have a very generous super chat here from Sea Lord Bravos. Thank you very much for all your support. He says, congrats on 300 episodes, gents. I hope you continue on being stalwarts in the Xbox creator space for as long as you both retain the passion to do it. I mean, the passion is always there to do the podcast. I got to regain my passion for videos. I have been thinking about starting those up again soon, and actually, like, about to buy the cameras and the lighting and everything. So that stuff will be happening soon as well. But the passion's always there. Will it be there forever? I don't know. But I'd like to think it would be, because I love video games, man. And I enjoy Xbox a lot. So thank you for your support. And one of the best members over there at that website, Reset Era, who apparently gets everybody on that website except for Sea Lord of Bravos and the people on the Xbox thread. They just can't play first-person games. They get motion sickness. And all it took to come out was Indiana Jones being a first person to suddenly everybody be like, I can't play this. It makes me sick. And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Suddenly first-person games make everybody sick on Reset Era. Imagine that. And it couldn't have been the fact that it's not coming to PlayStation, huh? I'm sure if it was, that would really be the cure, the fast cure that everybody would have needed. Instead, it's, oh my god, I can't play first person. I throw up. This is disgusting. Like, okay, sure. There's no ulterior motives whatsoever. Sure. Okay. Unbelievable. But anyways, we got Nerds and Other Legends being the newest member of the channel. Thank you. Donataku says, congrats on episode 300. I guess I'll take back what I said about how much better Pal World and Pokemon is than Hellblade 2 to not upset Rand. I mean, that's always a good thing not to upset me. So, and we don't want to bring up Pokemon. Silas says, how about a co-op Pal World stream with Jez and Rand? Probably not. I don't think I'll be playing Pal World. Jez probably will be, though. Obviously, he has. James Wiseau says, the show got an A for me. Just wish there was more release dates. But understand, you can't rush these things. Avowed is my standout. Absolutely gorgeous. Hellblade and Indie look fantastic. What a slate for 2024. Yeah, the slate's looking real good. Although some people will be like, the whole slate's coming. Right? Prax says, congrats on making it episode 300, guys. I started listening to you on the podcast episode 200. I haven't missed a show since. Cheers. Well, thank you. It's always interesting to see when people discovered the show. Who's been here since episode 1, all the way back in April of 2017, and, who's just discovering us now, or, maybe you discovered us on episode 100, or, 150, or people who only discovered us on iTunes and Spotify, because not everybody's on YouTube. People come in, and I'm sure there are people who used to listen that no longer listen anymore, of course. It happens, right? But yeah, episode 200 is when you first found us. That's awesome. Sin Vendetta, Super Chatty says, happy Friday, Rand and Jez. Congrats on 300 episodes. Glad I've been able to come along with you guys since the beginning. You boys are absolutely on my podcast Mount Rushmore. Oh, that's high praise. Here's to another 300 episodes. Cheers. Yeah, another 300 episodes, another 7 years. I mean, you'd be in what, 2031? That's a long time from now. Hopefully we can make it there, right? Hopefully, by 2031 we'll definitely be in next gen, and maybe even next gen, because you figure if they can, put out a next gen console in 2026, like some rumors suggest. I don't know if that's real. But then you figure another 6 years, 2032, you'd be talking about like the next generation already, maybe. I don't know how all this stuff's going to play out, but it certainly is going to be very interesting. Champagne Supernova, he says, thoughts and prayers to those affected by motion sickness with Indiana Jones not playing like Darksiders 3. Have a great show, sexy boys. That's right. All my thoughts and prayers are with those suddenly affected by motion sickness. Let's give a moment of silence for all those who can't enjoy Indiana Jones because it's not in third person. Okay, enough of that. Enough of the moment of silence. Jesse says, Jez, we got Rand to play Pal World. Not happening. I'm not playing Pal World. Don't even get me to try it. Not happening. The Swish Pop says Wolfenstein 3 was expected from Machine Games before the first indie reveal. Any chance that Wolf 3 morphed into indie or accelerated its dev as they have similar elements? I think I've always propositioned the idea that after Wolfenstein Youngblood, maybe they started working on Wolfenstein 3, but then they got the license from Indiana Jones from Disney and just immediately pivoted to that. And that's what they were working on. Because if you recall, when Microsoft acquired Bethesda in 2020 and then officially kind of had them in the showcase in 2021, and you can go look, shout out to the Xbox thread over at Reset Era with people like Vixelis and Sea Lord of Bravos and Sullivan and all those guys. They were sure that Wolfenstein 3 was going to be announced at that show. I mean, I thought it was going to be too, because you had Pete Hines talking about, yeah, Wolfenstein 3, we're working on it, blah, 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 blah. And that was like from 2018, if I remember. So everybody was just like, oh, dude, Wolfenstein 3 is going to be announced for sure, right? Even people were putting on like little Wolfenstein hats for their avatars, being like, let's go, Wolfenstein 3. And then it didn't show up. And people were like, huh? Even I was like, wait a minute. I even asked Mr. Matty Plays, who's Mr. Bethesda. I'm like, yo, where's Wolfenstein 3? I was like, oh, maybe it'll be at next year's show. 2022 happens. No Wolfenstein. It's like, wait a minute. What's going on? And then, we had the announcement about Indiana Jones on Twitter, and it was like, is it real? Are they only really working on Indiana Jones? Was there not a Wolfenstein 3 in development? And it's like, I think they started working on it and then just immediately pivoted to Indiana Jones. And I've seen, like, Gene Park mention how he kind of, he's looking forward to playing indie, but he kind of wishes it was a Wolfenstein game. And I get that, not everybody's going to be a fan of the IP. Not everybody's going to be a fan of Indiana Jones. And they would much rather, have it be BJ Blazkowicz, because you are sort of doing similar, I wouldn't necessarily say similar things, but not even the time frame is the same. But some people just want them to continue with Wolfenstein. But I think Indiana Jones is going to take Machine Games to the next level. I think it's going to be really good, and I think they're going to market the hell out of this thing. I think people are super excited for it. But yeah, are we ever going to get Wolfenstein 3 is the question, right?
And I'm back.
You're back? That's good. We have a question about Wolfenstein 3, Jez.
Yeah, we will get Wolfenstein 3, I think.
You think
eventually.
So? Are you sure? Because I would imagine
I caught the end of the discussion.
Because I would imagine if Indiana Jones is successful, wouldn't you just do another Indiana Jones? Or do you think it's just going to be a one-off?
I think, didn't it leak that they're planning a trilogy out of this?
No. I think we read the things wrong. I think it was like a trilogy of like mobile games. If I remember looking at the thing, it wasn't like there was going to be 3 Indiana Jones games. Or I guess maybe there could be 3 Indiana Jones games. I don't know.
I would imagine the license probably includes sequels. I would personally imagine. So if Indiana Jones is big, I can see them doing another Indiana Jones, but don't expect that we won't see Wolfenstein ever again. So it's not like those games were unsuccessful. It's not like Wolfenstein doesn't have a huge amount of cachet.
Yeah, I don't know.
And,
do you think
like even if it takes a while to come back, some of these big nostalgic brands, they always come back. Like Wolfenstein always came back. It doesn't, like, it was developed by Raven for a while, developed by id originally, now developed by Machine Games. Like, these games always come back, and like Haroon in chat says the whiteboard also teased Quake 6. Like, again, who would have thought Quake 6 would come back? And they always just come back because the brands are established, they're already out there, and it just makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? Because that was going to be a topic about the Quake 6 thing. Is that really its next game? Because we don't know what its next game is. I mean, I know the Bethesda leak had it, a Doom Year Zero on there, right? Even though I think people like Clover have said he doesn't think that game actually entered development, or at least full development. That maybe Doom Year Zero is being made by a different studio and id's making something else. And then on the board, which I think it would just showed in the video that is being played because we're replaying the developer direct, was Quake 6. So is that like a tease for id's game that may or may not get revealed this year at the showcase? Are they going to move away from Doom? Because Doom is really successful. Very, very successful. Like Doom Eternal made a ton of money and sold a lot. And I might be the only I know I'm the only one here between me and you who finished the Doom Eternal DLCs, right? You didn't finish them? Or
they were brutally hard.
They were. I mean, you could always put it on very easy,
No, I played the base game on hard, so like I kind of feel like I have to do the DLC on hard now.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that you haven't played it and it wraps up that whole story. It literally ends. It like wraps it up in a bow, and it makes it seem like there isn't going to be any Doom sequels. I mean, I guess they could always do a Doom prequel, but like that storyline is wrapped up real nice, right? So it was to me, it was always like, well, maybe they're doing something else because, like that Doom storyline is finished. And it was like, well, I mean, you could always redo Quake. And I know Special Nick has been saying for years that they are working on Quake. Will he be right again? I don't know. Would you like to see Quake come back? Would you like to see its next game be a Quake 6 or a Quake remake or whatever the hell?
The only Quake game I played was Quake 3 Arena, and I played it a fair bit, but I was always like, man, Unreal Tournament 99 is better than this. So like I played it like a little bit because my friends dabbled with it, but we always end up going back to Unreal Tournament because that was just the game we played, the game we knew better or whatever. And I don't want to debate the merits of Quake versus Unreal, right? But so I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it. So for me, it'd be like it would be as if I was coming in for the first time. So I'm intrigued about that.
Okay, because the only Quake, I mean, sure, I might have played them on PC back in the day, and I did play Quake 4, and I think I played Enemy Territory Quake Wars, but like Quake never really meant much to me like Doom means to me, right? So the idea of a Quake remake, I don't know, it's not something that immediately jumps out to me as like, yes, I need to have this, But hey, whatever they want to make, if they can do for Quake what they did for the Doom remakes, then whatever, then maybe I'll become like a huge Quake fan or something, right? But I wonder how multiplayer focused it would be. Because Quake is pretty multiplayer focused. And they did drop the multiplayer from Doom. Like, there was the multiplayer. Like, it didn't even make the multiplayer for Doom 2016, Jez. That was that Sumo? That was like a different developer who made that multiplayer.
I think it was Sumo, yeah.
And then they completely dropped it
that.
And then they dropped it for the sequel. And the sequel had that invasion mode where it was like players could play the demons, and then you had the players playing, the Doom Slayer. So multiplayer became less of a focus. So I don't know. I don't know how much of it would be doing the multiplayer because I don't know. Can they really do the multiplayer? I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah. I really like the Doom multiplayer. I didn't play, but to be fair, I didn't play it that much. Cameron in chat says I thought it was Certain Affinity. Yeah,
or maybe it was Certain Affinity. Actually, it was one of those studios.
Yeah, I think it was. I really liked that, but I also admit that I didn't play it, long term. I just kind of dabbled with it. Not like I play Overwatch religiously these days and stuff like that. I don't know what it is about. Because I have all this nostalgia for arena shooters like Unreal, Sorry, but they don't. For whatever reason, they just don't seem to work anymore. Like nobody really wants them. But I can't put my finger on what it is. Like why don't they work? I suppose it's like I don't know the free for all aspect that people don't like. I don't know, man. I don't know. The kids today they don't want it. They don't. The kids today don't want it, man.
Mm. My name is Mud says, I think Microsoft ditched the physical version of Hellblade 2 because of Game Pass. They probably aren't expecting it to sell much outside of Game Pass. I mean, we'll talk about that situation when we get to the Hellblade discussion, right? Because that's going to be part of it. Don Taku says Pal World equals Pokemon and plus Ark and plus Breath of the Wild. Humdrum says Jez mentioned there's two groups in Xbox. The multiplat push. Have they made up their mind? What side is Phil, Bond, and Booty on? Hope they saw Jez's article.
I know for a fact that my article was shared around internally. I think they are going to go ahead with it personally, but the thing is, they were in two minds about bringing games to PC as well. You know, there were some people that thought it was a really bad idea and it would hurt Xbox, and you know, you can debate whether or not that's true. I mean, I think it definitely hurt Xbox's hardware sales.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the revenue's never been bigger.
True.
So they've got more revenue to make better hardware, subsidize better hardware, and make things like Game Pass, which are crazy value for people. And that is partially subsidized by the fact that those games are on PC, you know. And so there's a sort of the mathematical side to it. And like I wrote in my article, the maths math and it makes sense, right? The maths completely makes sense on why you'd want to do this. But I think like there's also that sort of human gut reaction that's kind of like Xbox is going to lose something irreplaceable if you do this. It's like a road, it's like a path you're going down that I can't follow, to quote Padme. Or what did she say?
Really? Are we really quoting
quoting
Star
Padme.
Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith in the show?
Yeah. You're choosing a path I can't follow.
Oh my
He's
god.
turned you against me.
You have done that to whatever Obi-Wan says.
You
after
have
that.
done that to yourself.
Oh my
Yeah.
god! Look, that sounded just like Ewan McGregor right there. Say it again, Jez.
You have done that to yourself.
Oh my god!
I'm
Indistinguishable.
I'm literally Ewan McGregor, bro. I should just quit
Indistinguishable from Ewan McGregor. I really thought Obi-Wan was here for a second.
Yeah, I agree. I'm literally wasted here. It's shocking, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's whatever they choose, it's gonna be fine. Xbox hardware will still exist. There's a strong argument that it could even be better. You know, it could be a case of like if they're subsidized by PlayStation, they can do even better hardware. They can maybe even make it cheaper. And maybe they're coming sideways, and it's like, oh yeah, the next Xbox is like $100 cheaper because it's being subsidized by the multiplats we pushed out there. And then maybe it's like, oh, Xbox is growing again. You know, you never know how these things are gonna go, man. It could go any way, which way direction. You know, you've got an AI play coming in, and Xbox will have exclusivity on whatever AI features actually do kick off. You know, a lot of people are skeptical of AI. People cry about AI thumbnails and stuff and AI art right now. But I guarantee when all this stuff kicks off and the first games that come out that do leverage AI, large language models in a fun, genuinely fun way, it'll become the norm. And Microsoft, you know, I don't think Sony's developing large language models right now. They'd have to partner with someone else on it. Whereas Microsoft has all that stuff in-house. So there's that kind of stuff to think about too. And change is scary. The future's scary. And I think like the real point here that I really wanted to make in my article is that Xbox needs to be transparent with customers who are investing in the ecosystem so people can choose whether they want to invest in their plans, you know. I think like the fact that we have to wait for leaks and we don't know what's exclusive and what will and won't be exclusive and whether we, you know, want to invest in that as customers and consumers, I think Microsoft needs to be transparent about it, which was really the core of my article. Whereas like a lot of journalists and fanboys who didn't even read it just took it as a console war thing, even though I addressed that in the intro. Like literally nobody, I don't think anyone in their right mind is arguing that gamers should be gate kept from games. But at the same time, things that could potentially impact the investments we've made in the platform, we deserve to know about it. And we deserve to have a say about it, you know? So that's what the article was really about. It wasn't about console wars, but hey, even journalists don't read past the headline, apparently.
Yeah, well, the San Fran cabal really came out against that article. But of course,
yeah, they did.
They're all shit.
They want Xbox games on their PlayStation.
Of course. Because I mean, like, imagine me, someone who's like heavily Xbox, and I don't ever turn on my Nintendo, and I only really turn on my PlayStation a couple times a year. If there was a rumor about Nintendo going multi-platform, I'd be like, absolutely, yeah, do it. Why not? Right? Because it's not like I'm going to turn on my Nintendo to play Nintendo games. Yeah, that's a great idea, Nintendo. You know what? More gamers playing more games is A-okay. Bring those Nintendo games over to my Xbox. Because, like, I don't have any skin in the game on a Nintendo. Like, I don't care what Nintendo does. And that's a lot of it, what it is here. Is like, they don't care what Xbox does. It's like, yeah, you know what? Bring those games to my Switch or my PlayStation, right? It'd be the same way PlayStation. You go multi-platform? Absolutely. Put them on my Xbox. What do I care? I don't have any real skin in the game on the PlayStation side of things, right? Why not? Absolutely. Well, I mean, I bought the system, and but then it means like, well, I don't have to buy the system in the future. I could just wait. So of course. Like, if you're always on the other end, you're gonna be like, absolutely. Bring them to the place I want to play, like, because you don't care, really. There are people watching the developer direct that after the Indiana Jones segment was like, is this coming to PlayStation 5? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even journalists tweeting out like, I really want to play Indiana Jones 2 on my Switch. Like, you would never see that shit if it was a Nintendo game, like with the Switch 2, and they showed off a new 3D Mario. No, you would never see anybody tweet out, man, I wish I could play that 3D Mario game on my Xbox on a proper system with 120 frames in HDR instead of the ancient hardware that Nintendo shackles their games to, right? You would never see any journalist say, man, God of War, the next God of War, be like, I'd want to play that on my Switch or my Xbox. No, it's only Xbox that receives that treatment. Where it's like, people ask, what platforms is this on? Oh, man, I would really like to play it on the Switch. Shut the fuck up. Seriously. Like, I don't know, man. Like, seriously. I think that whole, like, stuff is just a bunch of fucking bullshit, in my opinion.
Damn, Rand spitting.
I mean, like, it's not coming to PlayStation 5 and you have to ask for it. And I guess maybe they're, like, aware of some of the rumors about it. Like, what's it coming to? No, it's an Xbox game. But it's like, oh, I'd really like to play my indie on... Yeah, like, I'm sure any game that... Yeah. I don't know. It's just... I don't like that, Jez. I really don't. I mean, you know what?
No, it's the hypocrisy, man. But what are you going to do? If there's like 100 people who have hypocrisy in one direction and then like 3 people who like push against that, it's the hypocrites who, become the norm, that's the accepted opinion. It's majority rule, isn't it? And unfortunately, that is the crux of the Xbox tax, which you described before. It's like most people play on PlayStation. So that's the downside of that whole shtick,
You know what? When the Nintendo Direct shows up, when they announced the Switch 2, every single Nintendo exclusive, I'm gonna make a tweet saying how I wish I could play it on my Xbox. Every single one of them. Oh man, Mario Kart 9, wish I could play it on my Xbox. And I'll have Nintendo fans come out and be like, just get a Switch, dude. What's wrong with you, man? Nobody wants to play on that shitty Xbox. It's like it's about the point, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was a rumor going around about like third-party PCs with Xbox, or third-party manufacturers making Xboxes, which I think you debunked, right, or something?
Well, kind of. So the post that Idle Sloth and others were asking me about, it was like a screenshot of a Discord Discord conversation where the user was kind of giddy about the idea of Xbox going full third party, and that third party, they're in discussions with third party manufacturers to make Xbox consoles. That's the bit that I debunked really quickly. Is that there's not going to be a third party Xbox running the Xbox store, but Microsoft is working with OEMs, from what I've heard, on their handheld stuff. And this is not something you would necessarily not expect anyway. So like one of the things Microsoft's investing heavily in is making Windows better for gaming, and more importantly, better for PC for them, better for PC Game Pass. They talk about the app being bad and the experience of installing games off the Windows Store is not that great, and the sort of way their DRM and heavily locked down compared to Steam, which is a little bit more easier to access the files and the mods and all that kind of stuff. Microsoft's working with OEMs on these aspects of the Xbox ecosystem. They're not making third-party Xbox consoles. That's not happening, because the only way the Xbox system works is if someone's got the store and they're taking a cut of that revenue. Like Microsoft isn't going to give the cut of that revenue to Asus or Dell or Alienware or Razer or whoever could potentially make this stuff. So like that's why like your Asus ROG Ally is $700 and your Xbox is $500 and $300 respectively, or $450 or whatever it is right now with the price cut. So no, but I do think like a lot of what they said is probably stuff that is happening. They just misinterpreted it, some of it, and then like fanboys get a hold of it and they remix it into something else where it's like, oh, Xbox is gonna stop making hardware and hope that Razer makes an Xbox and stuff like that. No, that's not happening, at least not in the near term. And if the only way Razer could make money on an Xbox is if they sold it for $800. So why would you? In what universe does that work? When the current Xbox is $500, doesn't work, does it? When you think about it, the only reason people buy the handhelds is because they're handheld, which gives you a bonus modality, and also because they're attached to Steam and other storefronts that you can use. They're a full blown PC. I can plug my Asus ROG Ally, sorry, I can't speak, into a monitor and write an article on it if I wanted to. It's a full-blown PC.
Interesting.
But yeah, I do think there are elements in truth in that thread. And I do think more games are going to go third party or multi-platform. But we've already discussed that to death. Yeah. I think people just need to come to terms with it at this point.
Halo 343 just announced that Halo Infinite is shifting away from seasons, Jez. Starting on January 30th, operations are replacing seasons, with content updates planned too. And the January update will be known as Content Update 29 or CU 29 instead of Season 6.
What does that mean? What is an operation? I need someone with Halo knowledge to really explain this. So like they've already done operations before, right? Are these going to be like mini seasons or something?
Well, they're at least according to, I saw Tom Warren's tweet. I guess these operations are replacing seasons. Operations are every 4 to 6 weeks and replace seasons. Spirit of Fire, January 30th, with the Mark IV armor and CE assault rifle. Covenant Palace and Forge, new networking and anti-cheat. Cross-core shoulders, Forge maps and Big Team Battle. Match Composer and Halo Championship Year Season 3. There's
what I'm hearing is that operations are smaller but more frequent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like every 4 to 6 weeks instead of a new season every 3 months.
Fair enough.
I mean, maybe that's what at least. Like, obviously, I haven't seen the interview, but I'm just judging it from the tweets I've seen. I guess they also said, quote, "We have a dedicated team working in Halo Infinite, continue to deliver going forward, but we also have additional teams now accelerating towards the future, working on brand new projects. We are also growing and have exciting things for the future."
Yeah, so clearly this is like we're moving on to the next Halo, probably the core team is, which could be a good or bad thing depending on your perspective. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm tired of service games, blah 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 blah." But then you'll get a camp of people saying like, "Oh man, Halo's dead, blah blah blah," because they're not supporting it in perpetuity. Like, do you want sequels, or do you want full blown? Do you want sequels, or do you just want Fortnite? You know, and I suppose it's really is the question. What do you prefer, Rand? Do you want sequels, or do you want Halo to be Fortnite? I
Well,
suppose
I
they
mean,
probably
I
shouldn't have
think.
called it Halo Infinite.
Well, I mean, I think I'm the wrong person to
It's not
ask.
Infinite.
I'm the wrong person to probably ask for this because I don't play Infinite. So I don't. To me, what I would want is a new Halo to get me back into it because I'm probably not gonna play Halo Infinite. But then again, you have all the people in the chat. You have a bunch of people, in the Xbox Era Discord that love Halo and that play Halo Infinite all the time. And if you were to ask them, they would say that they would want them to just continue forward with Halo Infinite, right? So you're gonna have.
It does sound like they're going to continue with it though.
Well,
Like,
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying. Like, you asked me what I would want, and
yeah.
I told you what I would want. But obviously, other people would want something else.
Halo Finite. People in chat say it. Halo Finite. I mean, yeah, the name Halo Infinite was probably a mistake from the outset, but it's a new era. It's a new team, it's a new leadership. So I think most people would agree Halo needs something to move to a better place, and maybe that's what you'll get. They're mixing it up. So I guess we'll see. We'll see how it all pans out.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that the next Halo will still use the same Halo Forge assets and it, because like I said, I did hear that Halo Forge had been ported to Unreal already. So like, if they are going to keep Halo Forge on board, then that's the Infinite portion, right? The user generated content layer. But we'll see. We'll see. Euro Malice in chat says, I think they should decouple multiplayer and single player. I mean, that's another option too. I really do think that was the original plan for Infinite, was like, we'll have this multiplayer client, which is separate, and then we'll do ongoing campaign updates to Halo Infinite, and make it sort of a online game you can play with your friends. And it just didn't pan out.
Yeah, well, then they said they never had any campaign DLC plans, remember?
Yeah, I don't believe that, dude. I don't believe that for a second, because the way that game ends, the way it ends, and all the unused assets, I don't believe that for a second, that there was non-planned. I don't believe it. I really don't. So that game was structured 100% to have ongoing story content, like Destiny, I think. And they just bit off more than they could chew. And then all the disruption happened with people.
Yeah, and then you had to
leadership,
scramble to
leading
save
minions.
the multiplayer, essentially, right?
Scrambled to save the multiplayer, and it just fell apart. So clearly they had a plan in mind for that to be an ongoing thing. Otherwise, they would not have called it Infinite. In what universe does the name Halo Infinite make sense unless you're doing infinite ongoing updates and DLC for the game? It doesn't, right? And partially, I think like that's why the game had this sort of less than photorealistic kind of style about it, sort of a step down from photorealistic in some respects, bordering on stylized, because it's easier to produce those assets quickly, or more quickly than you would like if you were building, a Last of Us or a Hellblade. If you're making like a Hellblade where everything's like bespoke, laser scanned, fully, full fidelity photorealism, you can't really do a live service game with those kind of graphics. And I think that's one reason Destiny's struggling right now. Yeah, Tom Warren says they had a 10-year plan for Halo Infinite, much like Destiny 2. So yeah, I don't believe that.
Well, that was, if my memory serves, and I know internally maybe they had a 10-year plan. The only guy who said publicly that the 10-year plan was Chris Lee, who left before they shipped the game, and I think humped a lot of the problems on him, right?
Someone, I can't remember if this was public or if a source told me this, but someone said at some point that they were blindsided by Chris Lee saying that, if I remember correctly, and that people were like, "Wait, 10-year plan? What?" So we don't know. It just sounds like that game is just a whole ass mess, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, they got rid of the entire leadership structure there, so
yeah,
obviously, like, things had to change, and people talk about how amazing Halo Infinite is now. I don't know how the community is reacting to seasons going away and it now just being content drops. I don't know what that signifies. Some people, judging from Twitter, are like happy about that. Some people aren't. Some people think it's like a sign that they're winding down development of Halo. I don't know. But
Tom Warren needs to tell us, man. Tom
Warren's
Warren's
got all
chat.
everything, bro.
Tom Warren's got all the
He
info.
knows it all.
Tom needs to tell us everything, and we need to get Tom on Xbox 2+1 eventually.
Yeah, you need to reach out for him.
And just pick. We need to pick his brains. We need to pick Tom Warren's brains. But yeah, it's all fun and games, man. It's all fun and games. I mean, it's like it's weird. It's weird to comment on Halo Infinite because I'm not someone who plays it either. I did try and get into it, but I don't know what it is. I just can't get into the Halo gameplay mentality. I don't know why. Like my play style is so ingrained to be like sort of run and gun and reckless, I suppose. And I carry that through from playing Unreal Tournament and I suppose Call of Duty to a lesser degree. And I can get away playing like that in Overwatch, but I can't with Halo. I kind of feel like with Halo, you have to be a little bit more thoughtful about how you approach combat. And I just don't play FPS like that. So it's really hard for me to change my ways. I'm just too old. But because I don't have skin in the game, it's hard to really comment on whether it's a good thing or not. But it does sound like Halo's moving to a new universe, as in a new development universe, a new leadership structure, and a new, hopefully in a positive way. And I kind of feel like, yeah, they've got a lot to prove. Because I also feel like we've been on the show before saying Halo needs to be better, even before Halo Infinite launched. I know we're saying it again, So long-suffering Halo fans, I guess, really deserve some respite from the pain, and we'll see what happens. I suppose that's all you can do at this point. At least they're being transparent about it.
Yeah. So there's that kind of just like is happening now on. I saw it on Twitter, so I figured we'd talk about it. We got in the rest of the super chats. We got Humdrum saying hype for indie and Avowed, but not for the Xbox future. To be honest, I mean that's your prerogative. Space Novakin, member for 32 months, says congrats on 300 show, gentlemen. Being away for a while, happy to be here with you guys. Love you guys. We love all of you. Thanks everybody for being here. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. Carl says, I hate when people complain about basic design choices in games, whether it's first person or 2D or turn-based. Not every game needs to be catered for everyone. Let devs make the game they want to make. Truth.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, are we talking about that now? The Indiana Jones drama?
No, I mean, I'm just going through this. We'll talk about... I sort of made fun of that while you were gone. I was like, and apparently... everybody over at Reset Era suddenly suffers from motion sickness in first-person games.
Yeah,
because like the thread about Indiana Jones being first-person is like 45 pages long or something, and it's just people complaining like, "I get sick." Like, okay, oh yeah, like sure, it has no other reasons why you're complaining about it. All right, didn't know so many people suffer from motion sickness in first-person games.
I've never in my life heard, so much motion sickness,
So
I am
much.
someone who does get I am someone who does get motion sick. Not necessarily in games, but like if I use my phone in a car, I can't do it, man. Instant motion sickness. So like there are people who genuinely suffer from motion sickness.
Of course there are. And I
there's so much like oh, okay.
You know what it was?
You all suffer from motion sickness. Everyone.
There was like somebody in that thread was like, this is just a veiled console war thread because Sony does third person games and Microsoft typically does first person. So this whole thread is just a thinly veiled console war topic. And one of the Digital Foundry guys came in there and said, absolutely. So it's like, yeah, this you aren't like fooling anybody. We exactly know what's going on, right?
Reset Era is just pure hot, stinking summer garbage, man.
That's true.
It's an awful place, an awful forum.
Except for the Xbox thread, where Sea Lord of Bravus and Euromalice and Vixilus.
There are some cool people on Reset Era fighting the good fight. The vast majority of that forum is just pure garbage, pure trash.
Pretty much. Let's see. We got Seth saying, hope they fill the gap until May with ABK Roundtable and the old COD drop on Game Pass. Yeah, we'll have to let's talk about that now. The ABK stuff, Jez. Maybe speculate on when it could happen, right? Because it didn't happen here, which they told everybody it wouldn't. And with Microsoft not having, I would assume that the next release from Microsoft is Hellblade 2 in May. So there's a lot of time between now and May, right? Do they start dropping ABK games next month? March? April? To kind of bridge the gap until Hellblade? Do they wait until the summer showcase when maybe they can brand it the Xbox and Activision Blizzard showcase and then mention how, like, all right, here's the ABK games. I know there's still stuff going on with the FTC. Maybe that kind of is, maybe they're playing a little safe and not wanting to drop the stuff. When do you foresee the ABK games like dropping into Game Pass? Like, what do you think?
I honestly don't know, man. I mean, you don't know. I haven't got any sort of inkling or rumors or hints about this. I think Microsoft's being quite cautious. I mean, it was kind of weird. Like every single post they put out about the Xbox Developer Direct, there was this like bold sentence at the bottom. There'll be no ABK at this event. There'll be no ABK at this event. And it's kind of like, what? Okay, yeah, cool. Nobody asked, kind of thing.
Well, setting expectations, right?
They're setting expectations on one thing, but I just wondered are they setting expectations for Xbox fans or someone else? And like you said, there is this ongoing stuff with the FTC and the whole integration process of integrating Activision itself into Microsoft, and I suppose like there's also. Managing employee expectations and making sure there's also, there's probably going to be redundancies. Like we've already seen some redundancies. Lulu Cheng got laid off pretty much, and there'll probably be other sort of managerial layer people that will get, find their positions redundant because it'll be like, well, we've got a finance team at Xbox. We've got a publishing team at Xbox. Maybe some of those people will find new jobs at Microsoft and maybe some of them won't. It sucks when it's
plus it's like, what do you do with BattleNet, right? We know PC Game Pass is a big thing. Like a lot of those all those games aren't on the Windows Store, right? They're on
I would be so
BattleNet.
So mad if they get rid of BattleNet, but I don't think they can get rid of BattleNet at this point because it's the social graph for all Blizzard games.
Right, I'm just saying, you could probably bring the console games to Game Pass right away. I would imagine that's not too difficult to do, right? Because they all exist. But I would imagine, like, it's the PC Game Pass stuff that they're probably working through, because those games don't exist on the Windows Store, and I doubt you're building the PC versions of some of those games. So do you have it where you can link your profile to BattleNet? And then, kind of like what they did with like Ubisoft and EA Play, right? Where you sort of like account linked it and you'll be able to play those.
Yeah, it's not about it's the chat though. The chat is so much better and so much faster than Xbox Live. The messaging and all that kind of stuff. I would like in a perfect world. I mean, they could do it, right? They could do it and sort of make because right now. On BattleNet, when I'm playing World of Warcraft, I can message my friends who are playing Diablo, and it all comes up in the same chat window, and there's a little icon saying like this person's on Diablo, this person's on Call of Duty even, or this person's playing Warcraft Rumble on their phone, and I can chat with them, and they can chat with me, in game, and surely Xbox has this capability, but there's just not a lot of games that really use it or leverage that. So maybe like what they do is they merge them and then expand that functionality out to other Xbox games like Sea of Thieves. You can text chat in Sea of Thieves. Maybe I can text chat with my World of Warcraft friends and see them either online in Sea of Thieves and stuff like that in my friends list in game. That's like in game friends list, not like an overlay or something. But I don't know what they do with that stuff. I suppose Microsoft has to work all that out. But again, that could lead to more redundancies. If like you no longer need a development team working on BattleNet because BattleNet's updated frequently, then again, you got to work all that stuff out. So I suppose like when it comes to when are the games going to hit Game Pass and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff is probably ongoing integration work. I wouldn't be surprised if it took a little longer even, you know, to see like how all those plans line up. But surely they're thinking about it. Well, I mean, do you think differently? Do you have any inkling? Do you want to throw out one of your famous Rand predictions, not predictions, for us? Rand.
What? Where I said like maybe Hellblade 2 was releasing in May. I threw that out there, or maybe April. I led with May though, because I knew it was May. I knew it was May 21st.
I knew it was May.
Well, I told you. I was like,
I'm so smart. My name's
Randall Thor. No, it's nothing to do with being smart.
I'm so smart. Randall Thor. Man with a million.
Stop it. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm kind of curious to see when they start dropping, because there's really not a lot of big third-party games releasing in the next few months. So like you could say, and like the next big release from Xbox is May, which is a long time to go. Makes me wonder if something like Towerborn was supposed to launch in this time frame and got pushed.
It did.
It did. Okay, well that makes sense. Did.
Towerborn got caught in an eternal delay, from what I heard.
Because I was just kind of looking at it, it's like, you know, Matt Booty talked about like being on track for a big game every quarter, and like one of the disappointments, I guess, of the developer direct was that the only game that got a date was Hellblade, and even that was in May, which I'm so excited for. But it was just like, well, what about January through May? What is there not anything? And it kind of was like, made it seem like maybe Towerborn should have been in that slot, but it was like Towerborn was nowhere to be found. And it's not like I don't think Microsoft is going to announce any. It's not like Indiana. I know Indiana Jones, they said 2024, but I don't think there's any way Indiana Jones releases before Hellblade 2, right? So
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I mean, Towerborn is, from what I heard, still slated for this year. But like I said, I heard it was second half of the year,
right?
You know, but.
So it makes me wonder if like the expectation was last year that Towerborn would be, you know, like February, March, April to fit that like time slot, and then Hellblade was May, but then Towerborn couldn't make it, so they don't really have anything. So it's like
definitely possible.
Yeah, so like what do you put in the Game Pass, right? Like Pal World is probably going to do really well because it seems to be a big thing, but they're really
blowing up.
Yeah, there's not really any like big third-party games you could really put in there. I guess you could maybe go and try to get some games last year to put in Game Pass or what have you, or maybe you just need to, you know, be like, all right, we just need to kind of tread water until May, because it does seem like the second half of the year is going to be bonkers again, right? I mean, second half of the year looks like Indiana Jones and the new Call of Duty and Avowed and Our History Untold, not to mention like. If they have anything else, like a Gears collection or, you know, Forza Horizon 6 or, you know, whatever else they potentially could show at a showcase in June, right?
Mm.
Or, you know, South of Midnight, there's some rumors that it could make this year, although I'm doubtful.
Well, Pal World is Quarter 1, bro. Well, that's exclusive.
Yeah, true.
Pal World is Xbox's biggest exclusive this year.
Yeah, okay.
It's the power of Pokemon, man. It's what you don't understand, Rand. You don't understand the power of Pokemon, even though it's not even Pokemon. The scent, the mere scent of Pokemon makes
what does Pokemon smell like? What is the scent of Pokemon?
It smells like, well, it depends on the Pokemon, man. Like there's an ice cream Pokemon, so that Pokemon smells a bit like ice cream. But there's also a garbage Pokemon. So the garbage Pokemon smells like Reset Era.
Oh Jesus. All right. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. The ABK stuff, like I said, maybe they could have filled the gap, in between now and May, and like here's a bunch of ABK games they could throw out every single month, or maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe they make that announcement in June. You know.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know what they're waiting for, but Kieran O'Connor becomes the newest member of the channel, and he says, "Happy 300th episode from Australia. I recently got promoted to a manager at work and treating myself by subscribing to my first podcast. I've listened to the show almost every day going to work the past 4 years." That's awesome. Man.
Well, thank you so much.
And, you know, normally this episode of the show can that's like half your workday. You listen to this from the beginning to the end, boom, half your day is already gone, and you only got 4 more hours to go, right?
That's true.
Yeah, we did add another one earlier where it was like I've been listening to every episode since episode 200. So it's always super surprising when people say like when they discovered the show or how they discovered the show. Nathan says, when do you think we'll get news on 33 Immortals?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that game.
I mean, I guess
that game looked really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they show it again at the showcase, or it's just one of those things. Maybe there's an Xbox partner preview that happens in the next couple months with some, where they could show off 33 Immortals with the release date. Because they did do a partner preview at the end of last year. I'm assuming they're going to do more of those things. There's a lot of stuff to cover. So maybe there's a partner preview coming up and you could see it there. Maybe they have another trailer at the showcase with the date. I don't know. I mean, we don't even know when it's coming. Was it dated? I forget. Did they date it for 2024? Not sure.
I don't know.
Years of Lurking says, why would we buy an Xbox if it's third party? I don't know, which is why that rumor doesn't make sense. And like, why would they release one when Microsoft sells them for a loss? But they make up the money on the digital side, and it's like third parties wouldn't be able to access that, so they would have to sell those third party Xboxes for. Either they would have to make really cheap ones, not powerful, so they could sell them at a low cost, or they would, make one as powerful as a Series X, but have to sell it for $700 or something. Doesn't make any sense, really.
No, I think that person. I don't think that person was making things up. Clearly there's a lot of nuggets that were true, and if it is true that it was before the Dev Direct, they were like, yeah, it's Harrison Ford's likeness. So, clearly there was either really good guesses or
that seems to me like one of those things where one thing, like Troy Baker being the voice, and then like you just kind of guess at other things. So when people read that and they're like, oh man, he said Harrison Ford's likeness and it was Troy Baker. He must know everything. And then it gives all the other information credence when maybe there shouldn't be,
I want to assume the best of people though, Rand.
See, you're on the internet.
Yeah, I suppose. But like the OEM stuff could have just literally been a case of them misinterpreting what Microsoft's doing with the handheld partners. Like, don't be surprised if this year or next year, or maybe this year, you see a third-party handheld that already exists out there, like the Lenovo or the Asus ROG, but with an Xbox colorway, with Xbox branding, an Xbox button, and stuff like that. But it's basically like one of the existing handhelds, but with an Xbox branding. They've done this already with Razer. Like there's a Razer edition, Razer Kishi, Xbox edition, Razer Kishi. There's an Xbox edition, GameSir cloud controller. So I think you'll see Xbox edition gaming PCs for sure. I think that's something that's going to happen. And you kind of knew that from the point they bought on the Windows. The lady who's in charge of Windows OEM relations now runs Xbox's hardware. So like OEM relations being, the partners that make your laptops and your PCs and stuff like that. She's now running Xbox hardware. So like her expertise and her contacts with those manufacturers is about Xbox's PC gaming operations. It's nothing to do with the Xbox ecosystem operations. Or well, part of it is sure, but yeah, like Rand says, there's not a universe where it makes sense for a third party Xbox because they're subsidized by the game, the store, and OEMs wouldn't be able to access that.
Yeah.
Increasing. I mean, this is why your Samsung smartphone they just came out with costs £1,400. It's because Samsung doesn't make a penny on Google Play, doesn't make a dime. So like Samsung has its own store, but like who uses that? Nobody uses a Samsung store. European Union might make it so Google has to make that more prominent, but it's Google making all the money on Android. Samsung doesn't make a penny, so Samsung has to price the hardware really high to get those margins up. Whereas Apple just double dips. They're like, "Yep, we're going to sell the phones really expensive, and we're going to take 30%." Which is why Apple's the second biggest company in the world, not the first, Rand. The second biggest company.
Does that make you happy?
You know who the first is, Rand?
What?
You know who the first is?
Who?
Microsoft. Microsoft, the biggest company in the world, not Apple. Not Apple, Rand.
Does that make you happy that they're the first?
Well, there is some Schadenfreude because of the window my ongoing Windows Phone pain, which I'll never get over, man. That's some PTSD stuff, man, with Windows Phone.
Mm.
But, so yeah,
So at the end of the day, it
seeing
was
I enjoy seeing Apple suffer. What can I say? I really do.
yeah, they're suffering. They're worth like $2.8 trillion. They're sure suffering, right?
Did you see the Did you see all the stuff coming out of the Apple Vision Pro? Like the
No,
Apple Vision Pro, man. Like all the journalists, all the photos for the Apple Vision Pro reviews, they had to be approved by Apple.
oh, really?
Yeah, so like that's why like they all look very very similar. Can you imagine the uproar in gaming? If it had come out that a game publisher had and been like, oh yeah, we're only approving certain aspects of your review. There'd be such an uproar. But like
Mm.
people just don't care when it's Apple. They expect it of Apple, because content creators know that if they're not nice to Apple, they'll be cut off and they'll be shunned and they'll be ostracized. So it really is like a cult, man.
I did
No
notice.
no other company on earth can get away with manipulating the way they're perceived like Apple can. No other company in the world.
I did notice when the shots of the people with the VR headset on. It looked awful because their ears were scrunched.
Yeah,
And
the
all
ears
the
were
pictures,
squished.
I was like, that does
Yeah.
not look fun to actually wear.
No, it's awful, man. $5,000 computer you put on your
Yeah.
head,
But you know
and it
what?
doesn't even have YouTube, Netflix, and anything like that because they're boycotting it. They're boycotting it over the 30% tax. It's
Ye-
hilarious, man.
And the funny thing is all the Apple sheep out there will buy that thing.
I don't know, man. I think there is a point where people are just like, you know what? I'm an Apple sheep, man, but I ain't spending $5,000 to put something on my head. I think there is a point where you just take it too far, man. There is a point, but maybe I'm naive. Maybe there is no end, no depth to the sheepness that Apple commands.
I guess we'll have to see. Alvin says, "Would putting some multiplayer games on PlayStation sabotage Sony's gas initiative? Could that be an intentional plan? Congrats on 300 to many more." No, I don't. I mean, I don't think it would. It's like, oh, let's sabotage PlayStation's plan. It's just maybe they're looking at like Sea of Thieves and just, hey, it makes sense for the game, and we're gonna put it there and make more money. I don't think it's one of those things like, yeah, if we put Sea of Thieves there, that means all of Sony's games are gonna fail or whatever. Because it seems like Sony's doing a good job having their games as a service initiative fail without them releasing a single one, anyways, right? So I doubt that's like a reason for it. Fantasticals says, happy 300th episode. The first Rand video I remember watching was his video about the Series X reveal, and I started listening to the show shortly after. Awesome. Jay Rembert says, TTS Rand, the San Fran Cabal. Yeah, that's trademark. That I came up with that. That's me, San Fran Cabal.
Oh, did you really? What does
Oh, yeah.
TTS mean?
I believe TTS stands for Talk That Shit.
Oh, talk
Yeah.
that shit.
Talk that shit. Chris R says, I'm personally glad 343 is moving into the new Halo game. I want to continue the story and I'd like to see what the new studio leadership can do. Dub, member for 30 months, says, stoked honestly India's first person, not because I prefer it, but because it stands out from Uncharted and Tomb Raider. Don't need to be the same. Humdrug says, quote, get used to it. Jez, this multi-push is going to do more harm than benefit. Like Gaz said, Xbox owes it to us to deliver exclusive games. We stuck with them.
I mean, yeah, man. But like it's kind of like what can you do? You can sort of a lot of us we've said our complaints, we've put it out there. Microsoft's seen it. I know they've seen it. And at a certain point you either have to just sort of, just live with the irritation or just be like put it down and move on because at the end of the day it is a business and they're looking at the math. And they're just being like, well, we have to do this for XYZ reason for the health of the business and for the health of Xbox. And if they think it's necessary, then they have to do it, man. They've got millions of customers and they've got not millions, but they've got thousands and thousands of staff. that need to get paid, and then they've got the responsibility to the shareholders, which we can debate the merits of shareholder capitalism, all you want, but I think just at some point you just have to move on. Otherwise it just becomes all consuming. Unless it's about Windows Phone, never move on from that.
Well, yeah, I mean the idea is like you can only do so much, right?
You can only do so much.
If you constructively give your criticism, like what we did, and we know they listen and they still go along with it, it's like we're not on the board. We don't work at Microsoft. We can't change what they're going to do. So either it's like you live with it, or you move on and go somewhere else. Like like I'm always say, if you're not happy with the product, it's your money. Take your money elsewhere, right? Yeah. If you're not happy with what Xbox is delivering or what their future might hold, then you're free to give your money to a different company. I mean, there's what else is there to say? It's either like you just get used to it and accept it, or maybe you don't fully accept it, but you tolerate it, or you move on. I mean, because none of us can change, what the future, whatever they decide to do. All we can do is being like, here's what we think, and that's it. And Microsoft will decide what's best for business.
We've given them feedback, and they've heard it. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. And just keep giving the feedback. Keep sending the feedback. And just do it respectfully. If you get toxic with it, that's not going to help you. So you just have to give the feedback.
Yeah.
And nobody's switching platform. Like Arthur One in chat says, you will stay on Xbox. None of us is going to switch platform because we locked in.
Some people might.
Some people might. I mean, but that's like their prerogative. Most people won't. Most people won't switch platform. They'll stick with the digital library, and they'll stick with the controller and the platform they enjoy. And if some people go to PC, then Microsoft's fine with that because they own Windows.
Yeah, but I mean, Windows is free these days, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Oh,
it's not free. It's not free, Rand. It's expensive.
Is it?
I had to buy a new Windows license recently for. It's easy to steal.
How much is Windows? How much does a Windows 11 cost? Wasn't there like a free version of Windows at one point or something?
No, man.
No. How much does a Windows 11 cost, Jez?
If you buy Windows 11 from the Microsoft store, you can get it cheap and you can pirate it really easy. It's really easy to pirate, but it's not cheap, man. I think I paid $80. Windows 11 Home is $139.
Oh, okay.
But they do a lot of sales and stuff. And also like it usually it's factored into the cost when you buy a PC. So if you buy a pre-built, it's just factored into the cost, right? But yeah, it's not free.
Drew says there was a free upgrade. Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I think that's what you're thinking of. If you had Windows 10, they gave you Windows 11 for free. But
yeah, that's what I was on Windows 10.
I don't know if they're gonna keep doing that, bro. Like that could just be like, well, it's all confusing because I don't want to get too in depth with this, but like Windows 11, the update was free, right? But you couldn't install it unless you had trusted platform module 2.0. So a lot of people had to buy a new laptop or PC to get it. I mean, eventually there were ways to get around that requirement, but yeah, I don't know. It's not free. If you want to buy a license outright, it's not cheap. Yeah. But there are a lot of sales though.
All right, let's talk about the developer direct. So if you guys are enjoying the show, hit the like button and please subscribe if you're new. Share this out. Talking about the developer direct, 48 minutes long, 5 games shown, 4 first party, 1 third party, and I'll talk about the presentation first, right? We'll talk about each of them individual games, but I think this presentation, like the actual direct, it's A+, the presentation aspect of it, like how they built it. The little title cards at the beginning when it like circles what the game is and they click on it and it goes full screen.
That was really cool.
Or like when the date comes at the end when they circle that, like, and with the devs talking about it and like how passionate they are. Like this is a perfect synergy to me between having just the right amount of people talking with like the gameplay being played, where you can see the devs and see the people that make the game and how passionate they are and all the B-roll footage, but then you get enough of like, okay, this is what the game is, right? Maybe some people would want to be like, just show us 20 minutes of the game, but I actually like I think they've nailed it, the formula for what a dev direct should be. Like, so shout out to Tina and Meanie and the crew over at Xbox, because I think they 100% nailed that aspect of the presentation. I don't know, how do you feel about the presentation? Because there hasn't really changed that much since last year's. They even kind of worked in some comedy with Todd Howard sealing the idol at the end, or the guy opening up the door when they were talking about Ara. Like they worked into that stuff. I thought the presentation aspect was absolutely stellar.
I have one complaint about the presentation aspect.
But what? Okay.
I was I'm in the dark a lot, man. I'm in the dark. I have dimmed lights. My curtains are always drawn. I'm a stereotypical gamer, never see sunlight, right? So imagine my horror when I turn on my Xbox and I get blasted in the eyeballs with the bright white full screen splash screen out of the blue. Not expecting it, blinded Rand by the bright white splash screen. So for that alone, they get a D. They get a D-.
Are you serious right now?
They get a D-, bro. They get a D- for the bright white splash screen. D-.
I'm not taking you seriously on this, by the way.
What, are you speechless? You're speechless.
Well,
no, I'm joking.
I'm having a snack. I got some cookies right now. So go ahead.
You having a snack while we're podcasting?
Dude, I gotta keep up the energy, bro. Come on.
What energy, bro? You're supposed to be on a diet. There better be sugar-free cookies,
This is part of the diet.
Are they sugar-free?
Yes.
I don't believe you. I actually don't believe you. I think you make.
I don't care if you don't believe me. It's part of the diet. Go ahead, continue talking. I'm hungry, and it's time to have a little snack. We put on a 4-hour show here. Gotta keep up the energy. Jeez.
Silton chat says Jez got flashbang. Yeah, that's what it felt like. I turned my Xbox on my TV. Boom, HDR, like 1,000 nits, like FFFF hex code white in my face. But anyway, the presentation was great overall. It was really fun. Like you say, the humor was good and it's good balance. And I know some people are like, oh, I don't want to hear devs talking, but I do want to hear devs talking. And I kind of feel like if you're passionate about gaming, you should want to hear sometimes from the devs and put a face on the people who are making these games. And it was kind of cool for me because a lot of the people in the video, I actually met them at Gamescom and other events and stuff. So it's infectious seeing how passionate game devs are, to me anyway. So personally, I thought it was stellar. Like the presentation aspect of it and the balance and the quality of the content that was shown off. They showed a lot of cutscenes, but also actual gameplay, raw footage of people actually playing the games, or at least what it'll directly look like, without any trickery, without any sort of pre-rendered stuff. And that's kind of what you want from these kind of events, right? It's a developer direct. It's not a gameplay direct. It's a developer direct. So I thought it was very, very good balance, and the presentation, the art was good, and I really hope this is the tradition we get to look forward to now every sort of January, February sort of time.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, this is going to be something that, instead of being like, I think there might be one, there's going to be a developer direct every January at this point. And for those of you wondering, these cookies, there's only 5 of them, and it's 120 calories, and it's just a snack. So I don't want to hear it.
5 cookies, 120 calories.
120
pretty
calories,
good,
bro. It's pretty good.
That's pretty good, dude. That's pretty good, actually.
So yeah,
I forgive you.
Developer Direct, you'll have one in 2025. You have one in 2026. They have all the games to do it. It's the perfect time to show it. You show like a section of your releases that year. Yeah, and it's just, this is what we asked the Xbox to do. More shows. And they're doing more. Like, you're going to have your showcase in the summer, and you'll have your Dev Direct in January, and you'll probably have partner previews like the State of Plays throughout the year. I mean, hell, Xbox has so much content, they could probably do 2 dev directs in a year if they wanted to, or maybe even a dev direct every quarter. A dev direct any quarter is probably too much, but they could probably do 2 dev directs a year if they wanted to. Like, I think they
I mean,
have
yeah,
enough.
why not? Why not, man? I mean, when they start getting Activision stuff on board, and they'll always have BlizzCon for Blizzard stuff, and but yeah, having multiple dev directs, especially when you start getting the sort of Toys for Bob and some of the other studios cooking, yeah, it makes total sense. And there's nothing that says they can't do more than one dev direct a year.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of it. But now we talk about the individual games, right? What everybody kind of tuned in for. And we'll start with Avowed, which, Jez, I believe this was your game of the or was it Indiana Jones? Was it Avowed? Because going into it, it was Avowed. It was the one that you're most interested in. The one, I mean, everybody knows Hellblade 2 is my baby, but everybody was like, but it's Indiana Jones because you didn't know what it would look like or what it would play like. So after watching this, is Avowed your still most anticipated Xbox game this year, or is it Indiana Jones? And what did you think of Avowed?
I have to say, first of all, Indiana Jones was my game of the show. Like I went in expecting Avowed to be.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect from Indiana Jones. I had no idea what it was. But now, like, I've seen it, and it's like, oh, it's basically a Machine Games making an Indiana Jones game. So I mean, that's probably what it obviously should have been, but you never know for sure, right? But now
Okay.
I've seen it, I know it is. I'm fully on board. Indiana Jones, one of my most anticipated
Right. But
games.
now we got to see
Love
more
Indiana
of Avowed.
Jones.
10
Love
minutes
it.
of Avowed, which is a lot more
Yes.
than we saw last year in that trailer that was criticized in a lot of places. People didn't like maybe the color saturation of the trailer.
Yeah.
I will say this one or this showing of Avowed looked a lot better than that trailer from last year, for sure,
Yeah.
100%.
But right out of the gate, the game, like the environment and the color saturation and the color palette, I think showed up a lot better in this one. Like it looked far less neon and cartoony, and now it looked a lot more serious. And it's still not like quite as serious as like some of the other kind of fancy games that exist out there. Not quite a Baldur's Gate maybe or something like that, but it's still like it still carries a uniqueness without completely eschewing the aesthetic of Pillars of Eternity, which I think is a hard needle to thread. So yeah, I think with the way it looks, the environments, some of those vistas and environments looked absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous. But there is one aspect of the game that I'm a little bit skeptical about, a little bit, and it's kind of like there's a little bit of bias there, and I suppose it carries over from Avowed, the Outer Worlds. But I always thought the weakest part of the Outer Worlds was the combat.
Okay.
Now I've heard people say like they love Outer Worlds combat, but I really never really liked it. Like if you play with anything other than sniper rifles in that game, I just feel like the heavy weapons don't feel satisfying, the shotguns don't feel satisfying, the pistols don't feel satisfying. The rifles feel okay. Some of the science weapons are fun, but like I do feel overall without Worlds, the combat was the weakest aspect of the game. So like when I look at Avowed and like again, some of the combat elements look cool. Like the dual wielding wands was really cool, and the fact you can have like a wand in one hand, a shield in the other, like that could make for some really cool, scenarios and player fantasies and stuff like that. But some other aspects about it looked really, really stiff and kind of janky. Like the magic abilities didn't look that good to me, and the effects, like the particle effects and the projected textures, probably maybe hopefully aren't fully implemented, so maybe it'll be better when it's finally launched. But I am a little skeptical about the combat right now, and I hope that there are improvements coming to that aspect of it. Like it feels like when you cast in fire spell and stuff, like it doesn't have that same kind of impact that some other games with similar mechanics have. And like as well, like this is like going to be a melee heavy game, and doing melee in first person and making it good is really hard. And there's not a lot of games that do it well. Like there were melee weapons in Outer Worlds, for example, and they weren't good. The melee combat in Outer Worlds was not very good either. Um, and you know, and we've also had games like Dead Island 2, which have very, very good melee combat, and Dying Light 2, which also has very good first-person melee combat. So it's kind of like when you go in and you're comparing it subconsciously to these kind of experiences. Um, you know, it's kind of it does have a bit of, you know, I'm a little bit worried. So maybe it'll be bad, maybe it'll be improved. And I say all this stuff with the utmost respect for what they're doing. I really hope that they take on some of the feedback, and I'll probably put some of my thoughts in an article, so like they can look at some of this stuff maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hopefully if they're interested or they care. I mean, maybe they just don't care what I think, which I wouldn't blame them to. But if anyone else has similar concerns, I will also, you know, cover those in the article, because as I say, I'm here 100% to amplify the feedback of Xbox customers and Xbox fans. That is 100% how I see my job. So maybe I'll make a thread on Twitter and take some of your opinions here in the chat, and we'll you know, make a feedback article on each of the games. But yeah, I'm still excited for it. Like the choice and consequence stuff, A+. They always do that really well. I really love the living lands aspect of it, and you know, the whole fantasy of Pillars of Eternity. Like I love the Pillars of Eternity franchise, and you know, anything that grows that franchise, I'm happy with.
Mm-hmm.
But I just hope that the combat's a little bit tighter when it comes out. But we'll see.
So you think the combat?
How do you feel about it? Yeah, the combat was the main concern for me. Everything else was great.
I mean, first off, like the one thing that I love the color palette the game has, right? I remember when you showed me some of the stuff back in 2021. I think I described it as a more colorful Skyrim, right? Was my descriptor for it, and that turned out to be 100% accurate, because those environments look really damn good, right? I love how they're really doubling down on the use of colors, so much so that, like, did you see the key art that came out of this for the game?
The key art's blowing up, man.
Bro, that is...
Everyone's so hyped about the key art.
That is probably one of the best key arts for a game I've seen in quite some time. It is incredible, and I love the fact that they're really... It's about the color. They're doubling down on it, right? Maybe there's gonna be a lot of different biomes that, like, the water looked great. And when I was watching it, the first thing that I noticed when they got into the combat was where my hand magic spells? Where they at? You get him a Harry Potter wand now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, wait a minute. I thought this was hand magic. Maybe there still isn't.
It'll be both.
What?
It'll be both. It'll be both.
But it was like, okay, you got a wand and you have some sword stuff, and I thought the magic casting looked good. Maybe I'll be a magic caster. I will say, like, the sword combat was a little stiff. You know, the parrying and the blocking and the attacking didn't really seem like there was a lot of impact when you hit somebody. But I mean, how could I really tell unless I could play it for myself? But like the magic casting and stuff look really cool. I wish they maybe demoed it against different types of enemies. They only really were showing off that, like, lizard type of enemy,
the Zaurips
or whatever.
I don't know if I pronounced that right, but in Pillars they're called X.
And you do have, like, you know, muskets and those single fire weapons, and you could switch in between them. So I think the combat's gonna be, you know, it'll probably be serviceable. But, like, I think for most Obsidian games, it's
not a musket.
It's not a musket.
It's an arquebus.
Okay, whatever the in-game universe lore calls it.
No, it's not the in-game universal lore. It's an arquebus. That's what it's called.
Fair enough. But you know, the Obsidian
That's what
stuff.
I called in game too.
People love about Obsidian is their stories and the choice and consequences, which they sort of showed off. And watching the characters, like, talk, I actually thought a lot of them had, like, really cool personalities, or at least, like, speaking styles.
One thing Obsidian just nails every time is the writing.
Mm-hmm.
Writing and dialogue. Like, I bitched about Outer Worlds combat and stuff like that, but the thing that carried that game for me, like, And that's how I did enjoy playing slow motion rifle dude in our worlds. So like it's not like the combat was terrible. It was like serviceable. So don't get me wrong on that. But the one thing that was absolutely nailed in Outer Worlds, characters, super memorable characters, super memorable storylines, super memorable plot points. Everything about that aspect of the game was like rock solid. Just a super believable world that you just want to live in. Well, maybe not live in because it's a bit of a depressing world.
Yeah, true.
But like it's believable, but also fantastical. Like Obsidian is so good at that. They're so good at it. So yeah, I'm still excited for it. I was just maybe hoping the combat showed up a little bit better, but the visuals, the writing, and the combat at least looks solid, if not spectacular. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, I mean, it's coming out fall 2024, which no date, which is interesting. I think this is one of the things Xbox is going to do, and I think it's a lot of what a lot of companies are doing is they're not dating things anymore unless they're absolutely sure, unless they absolutely have to, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, Avowed's this fall, and we'll put it out there fall 2024, but we're not going to date it, and they're probably not going to date it until the showcase. Because do they really need to date it at this point? Probably not. I think right now there's only one game dated for the fall, and that's Warhammer 2, the Warhammer 40k 2, and that's dated for September. Other than that, nobody has any games dated for the fall yet. So, because nobody really wants to delay a game, really. So I guess it's not surprising that Avowed came with a fall date. And I just sort of wonder, like we talked about it before, where their fall seems to be a little packed this time, right? It seems to be just a tad packed with stuff. And you could make the argument maybe this fall might be one of the best Xbox might ever had. Maybe if you go back to like the 360 days when they had like Halo and Fable and stuff, but yeah. So Avowed, it caught my attention. I'll definitely play it for sure. Hopefully, like Jez says, maybe the combat gets a little bit improved, maybe the sword gameplay. But I did like what I saw at least of the magic stuff. I do wonder if they'll do another deep dive for this game later on. But I doubt they will, because I don't think it's on the level of a Starfield where it got its own thing. So maybe they don't. But next up, we had Hellblade 2, Jez, which, that's my baby, right?
Hellblade.
And Jez always trolls me about Hellblade. So, like, while the show was going on, Jez is DMing me stuff, bad, negative stuff about Hellblade. Like, I'm not DMing him stuff about Avowed, but he's immediately he's talking that shit about Hellblade. He does it to try to make me mad, right? Because one of the first things they said was that it's a shorter narrative experience about the same length. So then Jez sends me that as like, the same length as Hellblade? L, bro. And I'm like, what? How's that an L? Right? But that's because you don't give a fuck about Hellblade 1, right?
It's trolling.
No. So yeah, they showed off, and they had a lot of behind the scenes footage. The devs talking. Even though, like, the thing with Hellblade is that we've seen a lot of it, but then we really haven't. Right? We just saw it a month ago in a really excellent trailer, and now we're seeing it again a month later. And I'm kind of like, you don't need to. I'm sold. I just want to play the game. And the thing is, for people who don't like Hellblade, I don't really think this game's gonna change your opinion on it, because at its core, it's really just gonna be Hellblade 1 on steroids, right? Because I think what they've done here is, okay, you got the increased budget, and I think they doubled their dev size on the game, and I think there was a section of people, or a group of people, that expected Hellblade 2 to go from an 8-hour game to a 20-hour game with an open world and skill trees, right? Which is not something I wanted, because that's not Hellblade. What I wanted was improved combat, which definitely seems like something they focused on, and you can see it in the trailers with the different moves you can go on, because that was one of the things when you played through Hellblade 1 that kind of got a little bit stale by the end because of how much you had to do, was that the combat only really had a few moves that you were constantly redoing all the time. There wasn't a lot of variations in how you actually interacted with the game in that respect. So for me, when I was thinking about a sequel, it was, okay, we need to have the combat improved. You know, I wasn't thinking like, no, this game needs to be God of War level, 30 hours, open world, side quests, chests to find. Because let's be honest, the rewards and the exploration in God of War Ragnarok kind of suck. Like all the chests give you like the little silver things or just like pointless upgrades or whatever. The exploration in that game is not
pointless.
It's not like, yeah, it's time wasters, right?
Doesn't add anything to the game.
Hellblade was always going to be a strictly a short narrative experience. I mean, it's a game about Senua basically confronting your inner demons and, you know, trying to best them. And that's not something I feel like would be fun to play through and hear for 25 plus hours. But in a short 8-hour experience, I think it works perfectly. So I think Ninja Theory made the game they wanted to make and just used the extra money to, one, make the game look like one of the best games you've ever seen, right? Clearly, the jump in fidelity is very noticeable from the trailers. 2, they wanted to improve mocap, which, I mean, they talked about building the studio. They talked about like all the new moves from that they have in the combat and like adding new characters because they've showed that stuff off. So it's like they've basically taken Hellblade 1 and improved it in every way, even though the game's still going to have a similar structure, probably, where a lot of it, as Jez would say, just a walking simulator where you walk from one section to the next. And it does look like it has some sort of those visuals puzzles again. It looked like at least one of the sections you went into looked like it was leading to a puzzle you solve. So I would imagine the structure of Hellblade 1 will be very similar to the structure, or of Hellblade 2 will be very similar to the structure of Hellblade 1. But yeah, like I'm perfectly fine with the game, you know, only being 8 hours as long as I get the narrative experience that I'm looking for. I don't need every game to be this 30-hour marathon with collectibles to waste my time like a lot of games are these days. So there's always that pushback of like, well, the game's too short and it's not worth the money. So in that sense, the big talking point with Hellblade is that it's $49.99, not $70, and that also, besides being of a similar length to the first game, this game's digital only, Jez. No physical version. Right?
Yeah, there's been some debate about this.
But,
I know you don't mind.
Well, before we get into that, tell me what you thought of the Hellblade section here, because I know you're the biggest fan in the world about Hellblade.
I try, man, but like I do appreciate Hellblade for what it is. You know, it's not like I'm here thinking the game's going to be trash or anything. But you know, I think a lot of people sort of do think there's like at least some vague potential that Hellblade could become a sort of God of War allegory, you know. And I also see this discourse around Indiana Jones. A lot of people who sort of wanted it to be third person, I kind of feel like there is a thinly veiled console war element there where people are like, I just want it to be Uncharted. I wanted this to be Xbox's Uncharted. I wanted Hellblade to be Microsoft's God of War, stuff like that, right? And that's a simplistic way of putting it, but I do think, like, at least for some, there is that sort of, you know, console war aspect to it. But, you know, whether that's fair or not, I don't know. But overall, I thought it looked spectacular, you know, and I did enjoy Hellblade, what I played of it. Hated the puzzles, and I abhorred the lack of combat in the original.
Right.
You know, like there's not very many combat events in the game. So like basically, if they give me more of the combat, less of the BS, and just more of the good stuff, doubling down on the good stuff, then I think it's going to be a spectacular game. You know, I think one of the reasons it's priced the way it is because they know it's not going to have the same kind of replay value potentially. You know, because it doesn't have the same, it doesn't have the breadth or the ongoing potential that some of these other kind of games will potentially have, right? So I think they've priced it appropriately for today's times.
Mm.
And I think the fact that also it doesn't have a physical version is also to do with that aspect of it as well. You know, it has the kind of it precludes itself because it doesn't have this ongoing revenue stream, which means it makes it harder to subsidize the physical version. And you know, I don't know if people realize this, but physical versions of your games are way less profitable for Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, whoever else than the digital versions. You know, you can't resell digital versions. So for them, it's better. You know,
Of course.
but at the same time, it sucks for consumers who prefer and want that experience. You know, and I would prefer that it did have the option, of course, for people who want that. You know, I absolutely would prefer that for people who do, you know, want that experience. And I do think it's pro consumer to have a version that can be resold because we can't resell our digital versions. And furthermore, Microsoft's kind of, you know, being cagey about what the Xbox ecosystem is going to look like. So like more than ever, people are like, I want to own my content. Like the whole like Oppenheimer, for example. Um, Christopher Nolan. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he made some comments about the fact that people don't own anything anymore, and like he wanted people to buy the Blu-ray right for
Right.
Oppenheimer, and it sold out. Like the people were going crazy buying Blu-rays, and like Blu-ray sales have weirdly did well over that period. Because there's been some backlash to digital content recently. You got Disney removing shows. You've got Netflix and others removing shows, and HBO Max or Max or whatever it's called now, they remove shows. So it's kind of like, well, I actually really like those shows, and it's sort of like it's a reminder when companies do this that we don't own any of this content really. We just license it and then hope for the best, you know. So that's obviously there's a whole that debate as well. So yeah, physical is always better to have as an option, but you know the margins are way better on a movie than they are on the margins on Oppenheimer are going to be way better than the margins on Hellblade 2. Way better. You know, if Hellblade 2 even ends up being profitable. The fact that there's even a question about Hellblade 2 being profitable is the real issue here. Or like Alan Wake 2 or any of these kind of cinematic experiences which you only play once and never play again, or like maybe don't play again for a long fucking time. So yeah, it's
Well,
I
Xbox
see
has the
both
dual
sides of the
thing
debate,
of
right?
like, well, we have the sales of digital games, and then the version of the game on PC. But then how many subscribers it would gather on Xbox Game Pass or Keep,
Yeah.
right? And as far as we know, the dev team on Hellblade 2 is quite small. So like you look at something like Spider-Man 2, which is $300 million, mainly because it's X many devs working for X many years in you know Irving, right, which is an expensive place, and it costs the cost of living and the salaries cost that much. But I believe the studio for Hellblade is in Cambridge, England, where maybe the salaries aren't as expensive and there aren't as many people working on it.
Oh, Cambridge is expensive.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so it's expensive, but there isn't like
It's
300
not as
people
expensive. But
working on Hellblade. There's like 50 or 40, right, or whatever the number is. So like, yeah, it took 5 years or whatever amount of years it took, but you would imagine the cost for Hellblade 2 wouldn't be anywhere near, even though the game looks the part, right? Like the graphics and how that presentation is, it's like you looking like one of the best looking games ever. At its core, it's still Hellblade 1, really, but more expanded to like better combat, better looking, better mocap, better audio
yeah.
design or whatever you want to say. So I don't know how much that game costs. The pricing is interesting. It's $50 in a gen where we went up to 70, right? So okay, so you're even if we had kept the pricing from previous generation, you're still $10 cheaper than what it would have been. So people think, I've already seen people think that there's something must be wrong with the game because it's 50. In a very similar way, if you remember discussions around State of Decay 2, remember when State of Decay 2 came out, it was like, oh, it's only $29.99. And it was like, well, does that mean there's something wrong, or isn't really whatever? And in those cases, like, they weren't, they, I guess they were AA prices for whatever the game, Microsoft priced the game in that manner. Maybe they're worried that people, see, I don't know if they're worried, because I think it's a two-pronged thing here. Like, it's like you could price it at 50, but I feel like the majority of people are going to play it on Xbox are going to play it through Game Pass, right? So probably. The price in that regard doesn't matter, because I think they feel the vast majority of people will be playing it through their subscription services. And the digital only thing doesn't matter on Xbox, because Xbox is mostly a digital ecosystem anyways, and most people are going to be playing it through Game Pass, so they probably feel like that's not that big of a deal. So the pricing only really applies to the PC aspect, and maybe some people would balk at the idea of $50 for an 8-hour experience. Like I mentioned, I've seen some people say they couldn't even spend $50 on Prince of Persia, which is roughly a 20-hour game. If you just go ahead and beat it without even trying to get everything, well, maybe it's like 17 or 18 if you just mainline the game. You make it harder on yourself because you won't have as much health, or you won't be able to do as much damage. But I mean, I beat the game, I want to say, 100% took me 27 hours, but first playthrough, if I wasn't doing all that stuff, maybe it would have taken me 20. And even still, some people are balking at the idea of $50 for 20 hours. I wonder if there's the mindset among gamers now that if your game's not, 30 plus hours, then it has to be cheaper. I've even seen some pushback against like Spider-Man 2 in recent weeks about like, oh, it wasn't worth $70, right? Where we've equated like hours played to worth, where like a game's worth is decided by like how long it is, and in that marketplace, a game that's 8 hours long in some people's eyes isn't worth 70, so you have to price it a little bit lower. You know what I mean?
It's fair enough. Like when you've got these free to play experiences,
right?
It does speak to that whole discussion. It's like, you tell someone like they can spend $70 on a game that ends and you never play again, probably. Or they can play Fortnite or Genshin Impact for free and play it for thousands and thousands of hours. It's like, I remember, I've told this story before, but I remember telling a younger relative of mine that Minecraft cost $20, and they were like, "What? It's not free?" Like, the concept of paying for a game was like alien to this younger person, this younger whippersnapper. I sound old now. I sound as old as Rand.
Ugh.
Like 1,000 years old. But yeah, I don't know, man.
But then
I don't know, bro. We're the people like us who play cinematic games that you buy and you want to get them physically and own them, and you have a nice experience with the story and stuff. We're a dying breed, man. We're
here's the thing.
Shrinking minority, bro.
So there's that physical aspect, right? Of they're only doing a digital only release on this, which I still find quite surprising. I mean, I guess maybe I shouldn't, because it's Xbox and they wanted people to move to digital with the Xbox One, and people revolted against that. And Game Pass kind of makes the system like more digital than the other ones. But to see like a console manufacturer, one of the big three, embrace the idea of releasing this game as the digital only. I mean, like, you could make the exception for Hi-Fi Rush, right? Hi-Fi Rush doesn't have a physical copy, and it was like, okay, well, that's a shadow drop, right? You couldn't ruin the surprise because you couldn't ship the discs. It would ruin the surprise, and people would know. So they just did the digital, and they never went back and did the physical version. And who knows if Hi-Fi Rush, if the rumors are true about it coming to other platforms, maybe it comes to those other platforms and maybe it's digital on Switch 2 and digital on PlayStation. Maybe they just don't bother doing physicals. I don't know. And I know the margins are better for them because you don't have to cut in retailers. You don't have to spend money printing the discs. You don't have to ship them everywhere. So you're essentially saving money. And in the digital version, you get 100%, right? You're only selling it on your store. So you get 100% of everything because it's digital. Whereas, okay, with Steam, you got to share with Steam. You know, you take 70 and they take 30. But so you could be like, okay, for us, this is better because we're going to make more money. We're going to maximize our profits on it. But then it's like, and personally, I'm fine with the fact that there's no physical version, right? We had MVG on talking about not necessarily this exact topic with Hellblade, but about ownership on Tuesday. And he's one of those people that needs to have, you know, buy all of his games. And there's people out there that definitely love the idea of owning their games because they can resell it. And, you know, well, if the end of the world ever happens, I can plug in my Xbox 360 and put the game in and it would still work, right? Nobody's taking it away from me. But it's like I was explaining, I've been all digital since 2015. My last physical game I purchased was Titanfall 1 on the Xbox One. I went to a midnight launch at GameStop. And that is my last physical copy of a game. And I will probably never again buy a physical copy of a game.
Yes.
So to me, when I say, hey, when I see the news item that this is digital only, oh, okay, I'm digital only anyways. I don't care. I'm getting this game regardless, no matter what. Right? Whether I get it for review or whether I buy it for myself, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm spending the money. I'm getting this game as my most anticipated. I don't care that there's no physical version, right? And I'm sure there's plenty of people like me who also don't care that there's no physical version. But I know that there are people that do. And even though that market is shrinking over time, I think it's still a market you need to address. And, like, the idea that Microsoft is basically already on this trajectory of like, no, this is the first game of ours that is going to be digital only. It makes me look at something like Avowed. Is Avowed going to be digital only? Is, you know, Towerborn? Well, Towerborn's probably digital only, but
Towerborn's definitely.
But like their bigger games, you know, something like Indiana Jones most likely is going to have a physical copy as determined by, you know, their contract agreements with Disney and Lucasfilm, right? That'll probably have physical, but like when you look at like Microsoft's future lineup, are most of their releases from first party going to be just digital? Like when you look at something like Fable, is that going to be a digital only release? Or like Forza Horizon 6? Or is it strictly because of, hey, Hellblade 2's 8 hours, it's $50. There really isn't that much of an audience on it for physical. Whereas like Forza has that expanded audience, and Indiana Jones would have that expanded audience where it makes sense to print a physical physical discs.
Someone clip that.
Someone
clip that.
No, please not.
Physical dicks.
You know what I'm trying to get at though? Where it maybe makes sense for this game, but doesn't make sense for other games, depending on. But I guess it just is odd to see Microsoft do it, I guess, because they are a $1 trillion company. And you could say Hellblade 2 deserves a
because they don't subsidize everything.
Right, no, but I'm just saying you could say like Hellblade 2 deserves a collector's edition of some physical variety. You know, like I said, personally, I don't fucking give a shit. Make everything digital. I'm all good because I'm all digital anyways. But I know there's my physical bros out there. You know, I know there's my physical bros out there. Right? And
physical dicks.
Shut up. Chat's probably roasting me right now. Are they? Are chat roasting me?
It's all over for you, buddy.
Oh, geez, they are roasting me.
Back from the physical dick as opposed to the digital dicks. which
Jez, stop it. This is a horrible time for me right now. Okay.
Oh, brilliant. But yeah, you're right. I think we talked enough about digital stuff. I think it's inevitable. You know, it's just the way things are trending. You know, it's not just, you know, people will point the finger at Microsoft and Sony if they do this, but really it's Steam that started this trend. You know, when's the last time you bought a physical PC game? The other day, I was because my brother has a huge collection of physical games, and a lot of them are hand-me-downs from me. And I just feel like, I don't want physical anymore. You can take this. And my brother's like, oh yeah, I'll take it. And he's got a huge library of physical stuff dating back to, like, you know, there's even Mega Drive games and stuff in there. And there was my cousin's boyfriend was over, and my brother was showing him all this stuff. And in amongst the piles of physical stuff, I found a physical PC copy of Manhunt 1. I was like, oh wow, that's a relic. You know, when's the last time you bought a physical PC game? And it's that trend, man. It's that trajectory. But you know, you trust. I think as well. There's a lot. Steam has earned a lot more trust. I think because as well, Steam is a private company. Like we've talked about this. Like publicly traded companies fuck around, whereas like Valve's built up a lot of trust over the years as a private company that seems to want to generally do right by its users. You know, not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but they've earned a lot more cachet than the others. You know. They haven't been big physical dicks about their platform.
Jesus,
is the point
Jez,
I'm trying
stop
to make,
it.
Rand.
Stop it.
You said it, bro.
I mean, I did say it, but I didn't mean it. You know what I mean?
You didn't mean to say physical dicks.
Jeff Keighley, he does a poll after every single event, and he asks people to vote. How would you grade today's Xbox Developer Direct? 37% is winning, Jez. With A. Well, A's winning with 37%. So 37% thought it was an A show. 32% thought it was a B show. So 69% thought it was a A or a B, that's pretty good.
69, dude. But yeah, I spoke to someone in Xbox's social graph. They were saying that like they're tracking, you know, record positive sentiment about the show. I think a lot of it was probably Indiana Jones.
How could that be? People are getting motion sickness up in here.
Yeah, everyone's got motion sickness, but this is the thing when you leverage a well-known IP, and this is something we asked Microsoft to do. Remember, guys, we all asked Microsoft. We want licensed IP. We want an answer to Spider-Man. We want an answer to Wolverine or whatever. Microsoft was like, oh, okay, well, Bethesda's got this going on, so let's get this on the go, you know. And there's going to be more to come, you know. They're presumably working on other licensed stuff down the line beyond Minecraft DLC. So
yeah,
it's a good time, man.
C was at 16% and D was 15%. So 53,000 people voted in this poll, and you know, they gave it an A. I you know what? I'll put up a poll in chat. So I want to see what the Xbox community thinks of this. Let's see here. We go to engage the audience. We go to start a poll. How would you grade the Xbox Direct? And they actually give you 4 choices. So you could have A, you got B, you got a C, and you got a D here. So yeah, start a poll. Let us know what you thought of the Direct itself. And yeah, we'll see what our community thinks about that. So yeah, I'm sure you're going to have a lot more people push against the idea of digital-only releases. I've already seen some of it. But moving on from...
Rightfully so. Make yourselves heard respectfully.
Yeah.
Respectfully, so.
Respectfully. Moving on from that, we had a...
Don't be a physical dick about it.
Shut up. Jez, we're supposed to not be talking about that, okay? We had
Demonetized.
We had a secret entrance, a secret game, and a publisher drop in that wasn't first party. blowing up the whole idea of future directs, because now, before it was like just first party, but now Square Enix comes up in here, so that ruins predictions for future directs, because now it could be anything, right? But Square Enix showed up, and they dropped a lot of info, a lot of gameplay, a lot talking about, what was it, Visions of Mana? And I could see Miles smile from... I just imagine like Miles like, I'm always winning. Because he had talked about this.
I'm always winning.
Right? Yeah. And I had heard the night before that it was Visions of Mana. I'm like, what? How's it Visions of Mana? Like, the Square's game. What are they going to be at Xbox's thing for? That doesn't really make any sense. But it was kind of cool how they joined. It was like, oh, there's someone in the lobby, join. And the guy really had a really cool leather jacket. Right?
He did.
One of the best leather jackets on it. But, as far as like Mana itself, for me, it's not about the game. Because I could not care less about Visions of Mana, and it's not a game I'll be playing. It is coming in summer of this year. They didn't announce it for Game Pass, but I would imagine if they are, maybe they would announce it later. To me, this is more about the relationship between Square Enix and Xbox, and how it's back on, baby. How it's
back
repaired,
on, baby.
Right? Because there had been talks about, like, what's going on with Xbox and Square Enix. Right? Square Enix would have some games, but then other games wouldn't come. Things like that. And, especially with the Final Fantasy stuff that Sony was buying, keeping them off Xbox. But then other releases like, Octopath Traveler and stuff would skip. Just weird games. And then some games would come, but some others wouldn't. But hey, as we all know, Phil took the stage with the new CEO, and they had the triple handshake. Right in the middle of the stage, and Final Fantasy 14. Like, what happened this week? Was it like it shadow dropped, or like an article dropped that dropped too early, saying that it was available because we know it's supposed to be coming in February?
I heard it got delayed.
Delayed. It's not happening in February. Like, was it supposed to happen?
No. It is happening in February, but I think the original landing strip was January.
Oh, so originally it was supposed to be in January, and then got pushed to February.
Yeah, someone got their wires crossed. It's, potentially, I don't know if that's 100% true, but potentially something I heard. But yeah, it does seem like they're fully back on.
Yeah, so it looks like their relationship is better. The fact that they were here during this developer direct. We talked about the Final Fantasy stuff the week before. I feel even more confident that Final Fantasy 16 is going to eventually come to Xbox. Whether that's this year or not is anybody's guess. But, I think the Final Fantasy, unless there's literally unless Sony literally bought out like Final Fantasy 7 Remake, I think those will come too. I think they'll probably also come to the Switch too. I think Square Enix is probably going to embrace being back to full multi-platform status. So, yeah, it's cool to see. Because that was a concern that a lot of people had, between the future of Square Enix on Xbox. And it seems like, well, at least for now, they seem to be in a pretty good place. I don't know. You're someone who's probably like very much Visions of Mana is going to be your thing. So, I don't care about it. Did you like what you saw out of Visions of Mana?
Yeah, I mean, it looks solid. I've never played Vision of Mana before, and I actually had to do some research about what it actually is. Like, it was originally like it was supposed to be the action-oriented spin-off track for Final Fantasy. Like, they were going to do, like, I think it was called Final Fantasy Adventures originally, Visions of Mana. So originally they were going to do, like, a sort of action-oriented Final Fantasy game, and they called it Final Fantasy Adventures. And then it sort of evolved into its whole thing. So I think like it will share some DNA, like some similar monsters and stuff. But yeah, it's basically its own thing now. And yeah, I mean, it looks really good. It'll be my first Mana game, and I'm excited to try it out. Yeah, it looked good to me, man. But I suppose the more important thing about that is like what you said, that it emphasizes the fact that the relationship with Square Enix is back on. Hints at better things. We got Final Fantasy 4 incoming. They got like maybe co-marketing on Visions of Mana potentially. And that probably means, you can expect Dragon Quest again, because Dragon Quest coming to Xbox before all the drama, that was quite a big coup at the time, because it was like the first Dragon Quest had been on Xbox since forever, I think, or if at all. Can't remember exactly, but it was like it was a big deal. Dragon Quest is a huge franchise outside of, you know, it's very, very huge in Japan. It's like almost like a traditional kind of experience, super nostalgic for Japan, and so that was coming to Xbox was brilliant. And I suppose it also raises the question and raises the possibility of getting the game that everyone really wants, which is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which looks amazing. I'm looking at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and the only thing holding me back getting a PlayStation just for that game is the fact that I know it's going to come to PC.
You know it will.
Yeah, and I suppose like there's a lot of people who think the same thing about Xbox. It's like, well, I don't need to get this console because it's all coming to PC, right? Well, I feel the same way about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's coming to PC, so like I'm just gonna wait patiently, sit there waiting. But like for those who don't PC game, they want to see those Square Enix's flagship products come to Xbox, and this kind of raises the possibility of this happening. It's all relationship building. So while it might have seemed a little bit out of place, it was kind of like, well, the third party in Dev Direct, that's weird. It also raises a possibility that Microsoft could do that in the future with other developers and other partners, where it's like we want to highlight a really strong third party game that we've got co-marketing with. Let's do the developer direct. Why not? If the opportunity arises, I think that's really cool. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll even get Forspoken on Xbox.
Well, I mean, they had a 2-year exclusivity deal, and that will be up presumably in January of next year, right? So.
Did you try Forspoken at the time?
Nope. I did not.
Would you try if it came to Xbox?
Maybe. It would depend on what's coming out at that point, but it wasn't one of those games where I was like, I need to play this. Let me buy. I mean, because I have a PlayStation, so if I really wanted to play it, I would have played it there, but it was one of those games that was like, whatever, I don't know. Maybe not enough to spend $70 on it. Like, I bought Final Fantasy 16 day one because I needed to play Final Fantasy 16. But I guess if Forspoken came January of next year, depending on like what also is out at that time, maybe I would give it a try. I don't know. It's not like I'm not like super interested in it. But yeah, so then we had Oxide Games show up with Aura, and there's kind of some discussion online about whether Xbox owns them. I don't know if you've seen this, Jez, or not.
They don't. They do not own. Well, they do not own Oxide.
I've seen some sloth tweets that would beg to differ, sir.
No, they don't. They don't own Oxide. They're just partnering very closely on this because a game like Aura for a new dev needs a lot of funding. So they're partnering.
The reason why people bring this up is because Compulsion Games tweeted out, cheering on our Xbox fam at Obsidian, Ninja Theory, Oxide Games, and Machine Games. And people are like, well, wait a minute. Oxide Games not an Xbox fam.
They just misspoke.
Right? And then Aaron Greenberg says...
they're Xbox fan. They're making an Xbox game.
And then Aaron Greenberg said, hope you enjoyed our second developer direct. A lot of time and passion went into this. Great way to kick off 2024 with some of the great games coming to Xbox and PC. Everything announced today from our 4 studios and surprise guest Square Enix. So people say, well, Aaron says it's from their 4 studios. Right? So like...
I mean...
Sloth says, did Xbox acquire Oxide Games?
Wouldn't that have to be public info somewhere if it was the case?
I mean,
Oxide would be a great studio to buy. I think, I played History Untold, and I know like a lot of the people here aren't interested in these kind of games, but
I'm not.
There's a huge fan base.
I took a little nap during this segment, by the way.
Yeah. That's because you're a physical dick.
Oh yeah,
but there's a huge fan base for 4X strategy games, man.
Is
like,
there?
You see how much DLC? Yeah, have you seen how much DLC Stellaris has? Or Civ has? What? Yeah, it does. Are you dumb? Do you not realize how big Civ is? It's huge, and this is literally Civ. Basically, it's the same team that made Civ. A lot of them, and pioneered and grew and developed that franchise. There's a huge amount of Civ DNA in this game. It's like the next generation of Civ with like some extra stuff baked in there. It's going to be. I'm going to probably play this more than any other game this year. Well, except for Warcraft and Diablo and Overwatch. This is Ara History Untold is probably the game that I will play the most outside of the Blizzard addictions, the various Blizzard addictions that I have. So I think it looked fantastic, and I'm all over that game, all over it.
Yeah,
I'm all over it like a physical dick in a bucket full of bone cream.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Xbox bought outside games. I don't think it's one of those things where they're keeping it secret. But I did want to mention that because I saw that floating around on social media. Obviously, I don't care about Ara History Untold. It's PC only.
Cool story, bro.
But I wouldn't care. I
Story.
wouldn't care about it even if it was coming to Xbox.
You know your problem is, Rand? You're uncultured.
What's my problem?
You're uncultured. You're uncultured.
I'm uncultured.
Unfreaking cultured, bro. Uncultured.
I mean, but when this game comes out, shouldn't I be playing it because I'm Trendy Gamer Rand and I only play trending games? But how does that work? If I don't
History Untold probably won't be a trending game because unfortunately it requires higher cognitive abilities to enjoy such a game.
What about the rest of this month? We have Tekken 8, we have Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and we have Persona 3 Reloaded. And I won't be playing any of those, but I should be. They're trending games. I'm a trendy gamer, right?
Why aren't you playing Pal World? Is what I want to know.
There's Pal World. Look how big that is. Randall Trendy Gamer should be trending and playing that game, but he's not going to.
You should be.
What's up with that?
You should be playing
So am I not the trendy gamer, Randall Thor?
Well, how about this? You are so trendy. You have become so trendy and such a hipster that now you only play niche untrending games.
Niche untrending games, huh?
So that's how trendy you are now. You're so trendy that you've gone full circle and become contrarian gamer Rand.
Tom Link says, "Are you going to play Turnip Boy?" Probably no. But maybe I'll have to play Brotato though, dude.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Brotato. Ah, mate, I got Brotato on Steam. I love that game. It is so good. Brotato is Xbox's Q1 exclusive. Is it exclusive? Is Brotato timed Xbox exclusive? It might be. Let's look it up. Brotato. It's
coming to Game Pass, isn't it?
Yeah, Brotato's coming to Game Pass. Like, for those who don't know, Brotato is it's similar to Vampire Survivors, except you're a potato.
You're a brotato.
You're a brotato. You're a potato armed to the teeth with violent weapons. And it is just satisfying. It's just super satisfying to play. So Brotato it's already on Switch, so I would guess that it is going to come to PlayStation as well. But yeah, Brotato's sick, man.
If you guys do us a huge favor, make sure you hit the like button, please, and subscribe if you're new. So when we're talking about the game that made all the headlines, the game that made everybody sick because it's in first person, Indiana Jones. And wow, did it make a showing, Jez. Like, my first thought about that game was, this is something Xbox has been missing from the platform for a while. It like feels different. It feels like a missing piece to the platform strategy. A game like this. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, when I was watching this and I was like, man, this looks really cool. It's Indiana Jones and it's only on Xbox. And it was like, this is something that Xbox has been missing for years, is that type of experience with that type of broad appeal and that type of like name recognition, which is why me and you always said, you got to go for some of these licenses, whether you want to or not, right? Because they're going to get talked about. People know Indiana Jones, whether or not like the IP's in a great place right now is another story, for a different day. But people know who Indiana Jones is, and people know who Blade is, and all that sort of stuff. So when I was watching it, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what Xbox needs. And I was even thinking, like, man, this fall, if you got like Avowed and Indie, and you combine that with like the biggest Call of Duty that come out probably since 2019 and Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, probably the biggest game Xbox will release, like, you can sort of look at it and be like, dude, this fall could be on a next level for Xbox in just regards to that, with an Indiana Jones game that usually isn't a game that's typically thought of as an Xbox experience. Alongside, that's what this showcase really kind of emphasized again to me, was the dearth of content, the diversity of games that the Xbox platform has, right? You think about it, they showed off Avowed, which is like hardcore RPG game, right? Then they showed off Hellblade 2, which is a very cinematic AAA, as Jez would say, walking simulator, right? Two totally different styles of games. Then you have a third party up on there, Square Enix, to talk about, like a open world Visions of Mana game, which is different than the other two. Then you go to Oxide Games to talk about Ara, which is a 4X strategy game for PC. Right? All four games are different. Then you have this first-person Indiana Jones blockbuster, cultural icon, pop culture game that looks different than any other stuff. And it's like, it really exemplifies the sort of library that Xbox is trying to build, where, they all don't look the same. They all don't have the same structure. They all, you know what I mean? Like, sure, maybe for me, 2 of the games out of the 5 I didn't care about, but the other 3 I did, and 2 of them very much so. And, there's, I think it goes to like, hey, there might be always something for you, right? And I think like that.
That's what Xbox has done really, really well. Is this? There's always something for you.
Right.
You don't like 4X strategy? Fine, I do.
But I still get my Hellblade, and I still get my Indiana Jones, and I still get my Starfields, and all the stuff that I actually do want, right? Because there's so many games.
Pokemon with guns.
Like, there's so many games coming that if 1 or 2 games don't appeal to you, it's not that big of a deal, because there's all these other ones that will, right? So when I see Indiana Jones, and I'm like, all right, it's Machine Games, love their Wolfenstein stuff, loved them when they were Starbreeze, and they did, the Chronicles of Riddick, and I'm watching this, and I like Indiana Jones a lot, and I'm like, man, they nailed the atmosphere, they nailed like the fun, adventure vibes that they have, and then it's like, oh, it's first person, but I expected first person. I think when we talked about this the previous week, I was like, I think combat's going to be in first person, and exploration maybe will be in third. But they just went completely first person, because I was like, I don't know why anybody expected this game to really be third person, because Machine Games, like, their whole pedigree is making first person games with third person cutscenes, right? The Wolfenstein games, Chronicles of Riddick. And I guess maybe what threw people for a curveball was the idea of Arcane Leon doing a Blade game in third person. So maybe some people thought there was a chance that because it's a license, that they would be forced to basically, be third person so you can see indie, when in reality, that's not the strength of the studio. So they're building to their strengths, and they're making Indiana Jones something unique, right? Because when you look at it, there's no other games that are kind of on the market that look like that first person brawler, stealth game, because I know you can sort of stealth around it, where I think a lot of people just wanted it to be an Uncharted clone or a Tomb Raider clone, right? And then they would complain that, oh, it's derivative of the 2 games that basically stole from it. So by going first person and leaning into the strengths of Machine Games, they've created a unique experience for Indiana Jones fans. I don't know, like, I'm 100% on board with what they're doing, Jez. What about you?
I couldn't agree more. Like, first person, I love first person games. I often prefer them and find them to be more immersive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in an ideal universe, you'd be able to switch between either one or all, like in the Creation Engine. But I think it's better that Machine Games sticks to what they know and do it well, instead of trying to, potentially expose themselves and do like third person, but make it worse than games that would easily get compared to, right? They've always made first person games, and it looked viscerally good, and they said they want to put you in control. They want you to feel like you're Indiana Jones, not just controlling Indiana Jones. I think you get that kind of immersion when you do that, you know. And I think but I do think at the same time, the fact that it's going to zoom out occasionally still gives you that sort of cinematic quality, you know, where you do get that feel of different camera angles and stuff like that when you are going third person. Similar to, you know, when you climb in a ladder in Deus Ex, it goes out to third person, I think. And when you're leaning up against a wall, it goes to third person, stuff like that. I think it works really well, and it did remind me of Deus Ex. I don't think it's going to be as, you know, as pervasive as Deus Ex was with the switching around and stuff like that, but yeah, I think it's going to be. It looks just fantastic, man. I said on Twitter, they nailed the feel of Indiana Jones better than the more recent movies. And I admit, I haven't seen the most recent movie, which I've heard some people say is pretty good. So, but Crystal Skull gave me PTSD.
I mean, I didn't think the last two movies were good, but
did you watch the most recent one?
I did. I didn't really particularly care for it very much.
Was it better than Crystal Skull?
Yes, I think so. I think it was better than Skull. But I mean, that's not saying much because Skull was bad. No. Right? I think they got the Harrison Ford modeling. I think Troy Baker's doing a good impression of Harrison Ford.
I was like, is that Harrison Ford?
No, you nigga. I remember because I was watching it. I was watching it with Cole.
He's done a good job though of emulating.
And we were like, is that Harrison Ford? And then I said to him, that sounds like Troy Baker to me. And Colt was like, no way, that's not Troy. I'm like, I don't know. Listen to that. This sort of sounds like Troy. And then afterwards,
I'm really bad at telling who voice actors are without a face. I'm really, really bad at it.
Right. And, you know, anytime a game's you can stealth in this, because they did show things where you would use the whip to distract the guard or whatever and throw stuff at it. I'm like, stealth games, yes, you know, because you could kind of do some of that in Wolfenstein and in Riddick. But this really seems like their pedigree. You look at that stuff and it's like, yeah, this is the Machine Games pedigree. And Todd said he had this idea about this Indiana Jones game, and Machine Games would be the best one to do it. And they pitched it he didn't say this at the direct, but he said it previously. They pitched it to Lucasfilm and Disney, and they loved it, which is why they were able to get the license. But yeah, I mean, it's coming out this year, right? Although they didn't give it a time frame. They just said 2024. There wasn't any fall or summer, just 2024, which is different because Hellblade had a date. And Aura and Avowed both said fall 2024. Mana said summer of 2024. And they just said Indiana Jones was 2024? What does that mean, Jez? Why would you go to say fall for the other ones and summer, but then just do a generic 2024 tag?
I don't know then. They clearly don't know.
You don't think they're 100% sure that the game's going to release this year?
Maybe it'll get delayed. You know,
I mean, anything could happen in game development. Anything could happen in game development.
Didn't we talk about before if there was one game that we'd expect to be delayed, it would be Indie?
Actually, if there's one game that I expect to be delayed, it would be Avowed.
Oh, was it Avowed?
Yeah.
I remember there was one game we said that we expected maybe to be delayed.
No, if there's one game... we didn't know Indie was going to be at the show at that time. It was there's one...
I remember us talking.
Because it was the four games. It was Towerborn, it was Microsoft Flight Sim, it was Hellblade and Avowed, and we said if there's one game that was getting delayed, we felt it would be Avowed. Interestingly enough, Microsoft Flight Sim, not here. I don't...
Maybe what they're thinking is we could push Indie back if the quarter's too crowded.
You see, but I think Indie makes the quarter. I think Indie and Call of Duty make the end of the year special, whereas Avowed is kind of just, it doesn't have the broad appeal that either of those two games have. So if I was Xbox, I'd want Indie and Call of Duty to make it, and I would push Avowed if I had to.
To be fair, they can do whatever they want now.
True,
because they got Pal World exclusive.
Okay, they got Pal World exclusive.
They're set for the year now, bro.
Yeah,
they're set for the year. Pal World is going to do all the lifting, and they can just chill for the rest of the whole year.
Yeah, I mean the fall. I mean the fall kind of looks packed for. You know, Indiana Jones. You're going to have Our History Untold. You're going to have Avowed. You're going to have the new Call of Duty game. I don't know if Forza Horizon 6 will make this year or the Gears collection or any other stuff. So it does seem like the fall's a little bit packed. And it looks like we are going between January, February, and March without a game. Which, and I forgot Towerborn. Towerborn's supposed to be the second half of the year as well.
What do you mean? We got Power World.
Oh, sure. That's not first party, though. I'm just saying.
It's exclusive, bro.
So I wonder if there's just like, they're going to be like, well, we might want to hold something just in case. You know, do what Nintendo does sometimes where the game's complete, but they just hold it. But yeah, for me, Indiana, like, even though my most anticipated game is Hellblade 2, because I've been looking forward to it forever, like, after that, I was going to draft Indiana Jones in the draft, and somebody already taken it. I'm like, damn it. Like, I don't know. I feel like that game's going to be really good. Watching the trailer for that. Like, because I watched it twice.
You can just tell when a game's going to be.
Yeah, like, I watched it twice. I watched it on stream, then I watched it on my TV, and I'm just like, yo, this Indiana Jones game, I'm excited for this, man. And it's something that Xbox, I think, sorely needs, and it's something that's been lacking in their library for some time, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. I've seen a lot of positive sentiment around it, except for the fact that people are apparently throwing up thinking about the idea of having to play a first-person game. You know, you know. Same people
That's
are
my vomit noise.
11 VR in first person, but
yeah, they love VR. They're hyped about the Apple Vision Pro. They love PSVR, but Indiana Jones.
First person. I can't do it. Oh my god.
So mature, Rand.
I know. Professional podcasting for the win.
Professional podcasting.
But yeah, also, I just saw this going on Twitter. Walmart to start removing physical Xbox games in store, starting with Starfield. Copies are either going to be 3 cents or destroyed.
Bruh.
And I saw Wario say, I saw this memo earlier as well, not through the same exact screenshots. Walmart will prep to remove Starfield Xbox physical copies from their stores, but you could get very lucky and get it for 3 cents on Monday. The memo says the system will block the purchase. But yeah, I mean, looking at this thing, it says on Monday, January 22nd, the Xbox Series X Starfield video game will be marked down to 3 cents to prepare for disposal at store level. Thank you for helping process this item off our shelves. So, yeah, I mean, it's because like Walmart was getting rid of physical Xbox games. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Hellblade 2 is going digital only, perhaps?
Yeah, I imagine so.
But if you don't own a physical version of Starfield, well, apparently you can get it for 3 cents potentially on Monday at your local, you know.
So maybe stores are just going to get rid of Xbox physical games. And I suppose this is also a symptom of Game Pass, right? You're doing Game Pass, you're probably going to destroy your physical discs too. Which means less physical visibility, less physical dicks out there, Rand.
Is that a good thing?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing. You know, the Game Pass was always going to have consequences when they did it.
But, yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. I guess you're 100% correct on that one. So, yeah. You went into this thinking Avowed was going to be your game of the show, and it ended up being Indiana Jones. So if Indiana Jones and Avowed came out the same day, which game would you play first?
Oh, that's a really good question. You know, I think I'd actually play Avowed first.
Really?
I just love RPGs.
Even though probably that's the game that would take you the longest, whereas Indiana Jones is probably, you know, shorter.
Yeah, but that's my mindset. It's like I do the longer one first.
See, but that's my mindset would be do the shorter one first.
Yeah, it's not my mindset, bro.
Oh, fair enough.
Maybe it's the wrong mindset to have, but
it very well could be.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and let's see. I think we covered pretty much everything. I think it's time for some of these super chats that have been piling up, and then we'll get to the Patreon questions. Let me bring this up. We have let's see. Let me get to it. Fresco says, Xbox is creating another messaging issue. If this game is only digital, will all their games be digital only? It costs nothing to make it a physical copy for customers. Just be consistent. Well, actually, it does cost something to make it physical. That making a physical copy is not free. It costs money to print them and print the boxes and ship them, and they have to share and they have to share revenue with the stores, right? So it actually does cost quite a bit to do that. I mean, I get the idea of being consistent. You've always done physical games when you could. I mean, some stuff like Hi-Fi Rush didn't have one. So I mean, I get that. You're Microsoft, you're Xbox. Like, is this the beginning of the trend? Are you essentially saying Avowed's not going to have a physical copy, or any of your future games? Is this going to be the new norm for Xbox, where there's no physical games? I would assume if that's the case, then some people might be like, I'm not buying my third-party games on Xbox anymore because I want to own my games. Or does this only apply to first-party? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, this is the thing, man. It's like, it's all like when you move to Microsoft's moving with the trends more quickly than PlayStation is, right? And they've always kind of done this, and they've always kind of like, when they do this, they create a lot of fear around the brand because people hate change. People didn't want what Xbox was doing in 2013, even though it's pretty much was on trend. They just went too early, and now it's acceptable, right? Microsoft's great at analyzing trends, but really bad at analyzing consumer sentiment. And it's kind of like, well, they will probably be the first to lose their physical discs at retail, right? They'll probably be the first to do that. But at the same time, it's like, eventually, so will PlayStation and so will Nintendo. Because why give a cut to retailers when you can just serve the games yourself through your own cloud and not have to give a cut to retailers, not have to give a cut to the companies that print discs? And there's a diminishing amount of companies that even print discs, period. It'd be different if Microsoft had its own facility to print discs, and don't forget, like, Microsoft doesn't own the Blu-ray standard, so they have to, there's an aspect of that where you have to, pay license holder for Blu-ray, the standard, and then also, like, on top of that, Blu-ray is kind of becoming too obsolete for what games are becoming. Like, games are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's getting to the point where, like, the disc just has a license for the game on it. It doesn't have the game on it. So all you're getting is the license. And at that point, it's like, what is the point? It's plastic. It's plastic waste. It's e-waste. It's manufacturing that doesn't need to really exist. And it's shipping that doesn't need to exist. So on paper, none of it makes business sense. But because Microsoft will go first, they'll get all the criticism, and then Sony will come in later and be like, oh yeah, we're doing it too, in like 5 years when everyone's got used to it. So, oh well.
Dead Planet says, Phil said one game a quarter now, but nothing till May. I mean, I don't know if he...
They've always said that's an aspiration.
Yeah.
It was Matt Booty who said that originally, and it was always an aspiration. It wasn't something they were guaranteeing or they were promising. It was always like this aspiration, So they are clearly moving towards that. They're gradually moving towards it. And we just have to be patient. They've never guaranteed or promised that. They've always said it was just an aspiration.
Yeah, I mean, they hit it last year, but this seems, unless they have a game that's coming out in February, March, then seems like it won't this year. Humdrum says, we're asking Microsoft not to go multi-platform. They won't listen. Well, I mean, what are you going to do? We've said our thoughts on it, and if they listen and decide that their business, they're going to go elsewhere, then not much we can do.
Yep.
We're not in control. BT Maverick says, as soon as I saw the tarantula run across Indy's arm in first person and made me flinch with the spider heebie-jeebies, I was sold on first person. Yeah, the tarantula stuff was like, ugh. And Beresco says, congrats on episode 300. Given there was no shadow drop, do you think there aren't any games that they could, or that they're holding off for a shadow drop later? It's probably just because there's no the games just aren't finished, right? If the game was finished, if Double Fine's Kiln was finished, it'd probably be releasing the next couple months. And given that the next game is Hellblade 2 in May, it's just, the games aren't finished. They still need more time. So, but this will also go to the thing of like, don't expect a shadow drop, right? Because they've done 2 shows, one of them had a shadow drop and one didn't. So now people can stop always talking about this idea of a shadow drop at next year's Direct, right? Because the history shows it's 50-50. I guess you can say there could be more third parties at the next show, but at least we can kind of get away from everything being a shadow drop, right? Because we only had one show to draw history from. And even thinking back, comparing last year's show to this year's show, Jez, I was thinking like, a part of me thought maybe last year's show was better, but then I thought about it, and the only reason I think that is because we actually got to play Hi-Fi Rush that day, right? Which I think was coloring my perception of the Direct, because it was like immediately, here's Hi-Fi Rush, something you've never seen before, go play it now. And when you played it, it was amazing and a Game of the Year contender, right? Where like this year's was like, here are the games coming, the closest one is 4 months away, the rest are in the fall, and you're like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. We have...
I can't do a shadow drop every time.
Yeah, we have Honcho...
I would have shadow dropped Brotato.
Brotato. He says, just popped in. Can we admit that if Indy was in third person, not a single person would complain that it wasn't in first person? I understand the frustrations. Avowed looks fun. Like, I understand people's preferences for sure. I understand, like, someone who might prefer third person versus first person, right? Like, I get people have preferences and stuff. I'm just kind of, like, making light of the fact that suddenly with this game, everybody gets motion sickness now. You know what I mean? Which I know is a thing. I just find it funny that, suddenly there's this huge game that Xbox has, and Indy's going to be a huge game, and like all some people are talking about was like, I can't play it. Like suddenly first person games are just.
I don't know why, but your vomiting impression really reminds me of Randy Marsh for some reason. I was going to say Randy Pitchford then. I was mixing up my Randys. I was like, I haven't heard Randy Pitchford vomit. Right? Randy Marsh, the Southpaw guy.
But, I mean, I guess, there is a thought. I was thinking this last night. I was like, I wonder if somebody's going to write a review of Indiana Jones and give it a low score because they're going to complain that it's not in third person.
Yeah.
Where they're like, I can already imagine a review being like, I sat down to play Indiana Jones and I was trying to get immersed, but I just can't get immersed because I can't see the back of my character's skull, the shoes. So the fact of first person, plus I spent most of the time in the bathroom, which wasn't very good and it made me sick. And I'm just not a fan of this. And why does Xbox only have first person games? 6 out of 10, right? Or even here's one for Hellblade 2. Hellblade 2, why is this game the same length as the first one? It's the same thing. Why are there no improvements? There's no physical version. 6 out of 10. There's some reviews right there for Hellblade and Indiana Jones. Call me a prophet when you see somebody complain and lower their score for Indiana Jones because it doesn't feature first person, or because Hellblade 2 is a similar experience to the first one. Watch people complain about that.
I hear you.
Randall Prophet,
the man with the million prophecies.
Chinook Guy says, I was always worried about how they would do Indy's whip. I'm thoroughly impressed with what they did. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Using it to distract, using it to pull people to you, or maybe disarm somebody to pick up their weapon. I actually got slightly triggered about the using it to distract. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because it kind of doesn't make any sense, really. It's like,
no, it makes no sense because he whips the wall, right?
Uh-huh.
And the guy's like, huh? And then he looks at the wall. But dude, the crack of the whip does not come from where it lands. It's in the middle of the whip where it cracks. So that makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Damn you, machine games.
Damn, 0 out of 10.
And it's going to be in my review
makes me
too.
sick,
Does
and it bends the laws of
machine games not know how physics and sounds work? You distract these enemies, but the sound's coming from the middle of the whip. 5 out of 10.
Made me sick and also gave me an earache.
This game's not on PlayStation or my Switch 2. 4 out of 10. As I sat down to play Indiana Jones, I had to rush to the bathroom because I was just filled with motion sickness, and I spent that first night just puking in my bathroom. 2 out of 10.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Face 23 PKNY. He says, Jez, thoughts on the subscription growth has flattened, and sub-services on console and PC platform accounts for only 10% of total video game content spending in the U.S. The idea that subs will become dominant is unsupported by data. From Matt Piscatella.
Nobody said it was going to become dominant.
But Larian said, remember this whole discussion was, popped off by the Ubisoft guy, and the Larian guy responded to that, and then Matt was responding to the Larian guy, right?
Microsoft said all through the FTC trial that it was additive, it was additive, it was additive, it was additive. And it is additive. It's a content fund, right? It's like if a company like Palworld, the devs making Palworld, they can get a bag and guaranteed cash flow for like a year in exchange for a Game Pass inclusion, and then like engagement bonuses on top of that, pre-sales, then that really helps them. It's a content fund, and it should be thought of as content fund. People always want to compare it to Netflix. They always want to compare it to Spotify, because Spotify became the dominant way we consume music. Therefore, Microsoft wants Game Pass to become dominant like Spotify. They've always said it was additive. They've always said this. Always, always, and forever. So, yeah, I think, like, people just rush to these... I don't know if it's a human thing, to look at, like, what's the best, X, Y, and Z all the time. It's always about what's the best. It can never be like, there can be a plurality of business models that work. There can never be like, there's always got to be one. There's always got to be Apple, never Samsung. And I see this now. Everyone's pushing against Samsung. They want Samsung to die so that Apple gets to control everything. I feel like everyone's just tired of competition. And, like, that's part of a wider discussion about... People are just, they don't believe in capitalism anymore. They want everything controlled by one company because it's more convenient. They've seen what Amazon did, and Amazon controls all of online retail, and it's convenient, it's great. But, and they've given up on the idea that it can, consolidation, it leads to increased prices. They've given up on all that stuff. And maybe that's fair enough, because capitalism has failed us. Maybe that's the point here to make. But that's part of a wider discussion. The people always seem to want to go to extremes. Either Game Pass is great or Game Pass is dead. It's never like it's okay that Game Pass exists in a world where there's multiple business models. It's never like, oh, Microsoft has always been a company that tries to diversify its revenue streams, and that's why they're one of the most successful companies in the world. It's never like that. Never like that, bro. It's never nuanced, bro. Why is it never nuanced? I'll tell you why it's never nuanced. Because it doesn't get as many clicks, bro. And I know it doesn't get as many clicks because I can see our analytics.
Interesting. Face wants to know if I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Maybe. I just finished Prince of Persia, and I'm not sure what I want to play next. I could play Cyberpunk. I could play Baldur's Gate, because that Baldur's Gate save was fixed, apparently. I think there was an update on the Xbox that fixed it.
Yes.
There is remake, so I'm trying to decide what I want to play next, because I'm not playing Persona or Tekken or Like a Dragon. Even though I kind of want to play Like a Dragon, I have to play the previous one. So, yeah, I guess I could play Final Fantasy VII Remake and then play Rebirth, but then I feel like they'll come to Xbox and I'll just want to play them there instead. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I haven't decided. Maybe I should just go and play Cyberpunk next. I don't know. The Don, CJG, says, missed most of the show so far. Any thoughts on 343's community update today? A focus on the future sounds like they're moving forward. We did talk about that earlier. There is a segment of the show where that did break, and we did talk about that. But neither me or Jez actually listened to what was said because we were live. We just kind of got like some of the info that Tom Ward and Clobril put out there. How they're so you'd have to go back and maybe find that segment when timestamps go up and everything. Shout out to random guy who does our timestamps. So I mean, sounds like they are moving forward. Is that a good or bad thing? I guess it depends on where you sit. But yeah, let's take a look at some of these Patreon questions, Jez. Patreon questions. We got Governor Grimm. What is your take on Xbox not releasing any first-party games in the first half of the year? How long do you think it will be before they have consistent cadence, or will they ever get there? Also, in the Destin video you were in, Destin hit you with, more people will get to play Hi-Fi Rush. How is that a bad thing?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing if more people get to play it. It's a good thing for the devs and the artists. And honestly, devs and artists want that. They don't necessarily, want to be platform exclusive. They want their games to be out there. And there is that completely valid point to make. And it's one I actually tend to agree with. I just like, as an Xbox consumer and someone who, writes for Xbox consumers, you guys, I think it's also valid that Microsoft is transparent about what their plans are for the future of its platform, and stuff like that. Because we're spending our money into this stuff, and if they're making decisions which on paper could damage the longevity of the platform, then we need to know. And also Microsoft can just be like, no, here's why it won't damage the platform, and this is why. And then if they explain themselves and it makes sense, then you can have a discussion about that, right? Right now, all we've got is rumors. All we've got is rumors, and a lot of people hoping that they are just rumors, but I don't think they are just rumors.
Mm-hmm. As far as Xbox not releasing first-party games, how long before they have a consistent cadence, or will they ever get there? It's gonna be tough because things happen in game development. You might think like a game's locked in, and then it doesn't make it. And if you only have one game set for that time frame and it moves, then you're not gonna have one. And as we see, most of Xbox's games always seem to end up finishing sometime in the fall, right? Look how many games we have releasing this fall. Xbox just might have to have the situation where, like if South of Midnight, for example, is ready this year, that they just hold it and just release it the following year in the beginning, right? And maybe they haven't had that, like, really be in that position to do that. But eventually, you probably will have so many games that you can't pile them all on top of each other, right? So then you would essentially start to hold on to stuff to make sure that you do have content in like the first half of the year, because it always seems to be the first half of the year that gets the cold shoulder from Microsoft, right? It usually is, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, a little bit. You're crackling a bit now.
Am I crackling?
Yeah. Are you crackling? Is it my headset or is it? Can people hear Rand crackling? Say something.
Something. I mean, I'm looking at chat. I haven't seen anybody say anything.
Maybe it's my headset. I'll reboot my headset. 1 sec.
Am I crackling, chat? Or is it just Jez's headset? Anyways, moving on to the next question. We got CJ saying, congrats on episode 300, gents. Thank you very much. Episode 300. Kind of crazy. Raj says, if I remember correctly, Phil promised a big first-party title each quarter. Is there going to be one in quarter 1, 2024, and what do you think it is? P.S. It's scale-bound. As far as I recall, they didn't promise anything. They said it was like a goal, like something. Okay, there's crackling. Okay, hold on.
It's not now. It stopped. So maybe you're too close or something? Slightly?
All right, what about now?
You sound fine now. What was that?
Okay. I don't know. I mean...
Huh. Wait,
So people are saying I'm crackling, but you not hearing anymore?
I'm not hearing it now, no.
So I went the whole episode and it wasn't crackling, but now it was, and now it's fixed?
It seems to be fixed.
Okay. We're on like a 20-second delay, so... If I'm still crackling now...
no, you sound alright now.
That was weird.
That was weird.
Yeah, usually there's like a 20-second delay between latency on YouTube versus what we say. So it stopped. It fixed. Okay. I don't know. That's weird.
That's weird.
Very weird. I don't know why that happened.
It's a problem when you're doing it live, man. Like I've started doing another podcast. For those who don't know, it's called Unshackled Fury, and it's all about World of Warcraft. It's on podcast services, not on YouTube or anything. But we don't do it live. So like any mistakes like that, they can be edited out. It's like, wow, that's how it's normally done. But me and Rand do it live. We do it raw.
Yeah,
baby.
We get those physical dicks up in here.
Yeah, and the physical problems like crackling mic and stuff like that. Yeah. But we have to work through it. But yes, give us another question, Rand.
Yes, hold on 1 second. Roz says Phil promised a big first-party title each quarter. Is there going to be one in quarter 1, 2024? And what do you think it is? Like I said, I don't think they promised anything. It was always more aspirations and something they wanted to do. But clearly, there's not going to be one. Unless they surprise us. So it's just, I don't know. My theory is that Towerbone was supposed to be the game, and it just couldn't make it, and now it's coming in the second half of the year. And sometimes that happens in game development. Sometimes you can make all the plans in the world, and games just don't finish on time. Which is why I mentioned to the previous first question, maybe they're just going to have to hold on to completed games. If they have a dearth of releases at the end of the year, if you have Avowed and Indie and Call of Duty and Art History Untold, right? And if you have all those games, but then South of Midnight finishes, is it worth it to release South of Midnight during that time frame just to have another release that fall? Or would it be better to make sure to hold on to it and release it January, February, March, just in case a game that was planned on finishing then doesn't finish? That's something they're really going to have to think about, because I know Nintendo does that. They do engage in that stuff. So, we have Nate Miller, 300, crazy. I still remember episode 1. You two have grown a ton, mostly old, that is true, and we are proud of you. My question is a short one. Do you think Xbox should do more directs or just keep it to one in January?
We kind of talked about it on the show. I think if they've got content, they should definitely do more.
Yes.
Why not? I think it's cool to keep these short and sweet. So rather than doing a 2-hour direct when you've got loads of content, I'd rather see 2 45-minute directs that were more spread out. I would personally rather see that. But that's just me. How about you? How about you, Randall?
I mean, they could probably fit 2 in a year, right?
Yeah.
We know they're going to have the June show, and they're probably going to have partner previews. So, because I'm trying to figure, when else would you want to do another direct, right? You got one in January, which essentially covers the first 6 months. Then you have your big show. So so the next direct would have to be in the fall, after the summer showcase. And so the time frame would be September, where you would run the games that just, I don't know. They probably have enough to do too, but I just don't know if there's time to really do 2, right? Because you're going to have the one at the beginning and the one in the middle. And do you do another one for the games releasing at the end of the year? I guess it's possible. I don't know. Maybe they will, with ABK comes fully on board. Maybe they think about it. I have no idea, but
yeah,
if they do, I think we'll see more partner previews than we will see developer directs. I could see them doing 2 partner previews, right? One in the March-April time frame, and then another one in say that September-October time frame. So maybe they do more partner previews than they do developer directs.
Yeah.
Chris Ryan says, how do you both feel about there only being one actual date announced and only one game we know is coming the first 6 months of the year? If I was grading the show, I'd give it an A for the games and D for the dates and what we'll be playing the first half of the year. I mean, that was probably the biggest disappointment for me, was that the only game that got a date is Hellblade, and it's the only game coming this fall. Or the first half of the year. That was probably the biggest disappointment, was everything else was at the end of the year. I think like overall for the show, I'd give it a B plus. Mainly because like the date of everything else being not making it. Yeah, that's why I would give it like a B plus and not like an A.
I'd give it a B plus as well.
Trickstar for Trey says, so where does Towerborn land with the revealed dates for the Dev Direct? Not Q1 release? I mean, you would think if Towerborn was coming, it would have been at the show. But I mean, Jez, you had some like kind of, we talked a little bit about it, but you had some sort of like, information about it, right?
Yeah, I heard it's second half of the year is what I heard.
Okay.
I don't know when so that's sometime after January. But again, don't know for sure if that's true, so take it with a grain of salt right now. But the fact that it wasn't at the show probably says to me it is second half of the year. I think if it was coming at the first half of the year, they would have definitely said something about it. So maybe like they're even thinking like it might even need to go further than second half of the year. But we'll see.
Silas says Jez and Rand are out together celebrating the birth of Jez's son Metzen. Thinking that the senior menu's food was bland, Rand goes into shock from eating a piece of seasoned chicken. Then Jez overdoses on oat milk. Both are hospitalized. Their loved ones ask them a question just in case things go bad. Who gets all their video game stuff? Merch, digital library, consoles, PCs. Which family or friends are bequeathed the Al Thor courting gaming goodness?
Oh man, that's my brother, man.
Your brother?
I've actually already written.
Yeah, that would be my brother too. Would get all mine. It would be my brother because of my nephews would get all the gaming goodness and my PC and stuff. Because my sisters, what do they care, right? What do they need it for, right?
Yeah, I'm the same way. My little brother, like I've actually got a will, and he gets everything.
So. And that's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
He's set for life.
He gets all my tech, at least.
Xbox 2 featuring me and Jez's brother. Monkey vs. Tramp says, happy 300 episodes, guys. Rand, you are happily walking in the mall with Jez and Colt Eastwood. Jim Ryan comes in with his cronies and holds everyone hostage. He gives you a choice, spare Jez or Colt Eastwood. Who do you save? P.S. I like asking you guys these silly questions. I gotta save my podcast host. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
I gotta save Jez on this one. I'm sorry, Colt. Yeah. Although, I guess maybe if I did lose Jez, maybe me and Colt could do Xbox 2 together? Is that a possibility? Would chat love Xbox 2 with me and Colt Eastwood?
Nope.
No. But no, I'd have to save Jez. You gotta save your podcast host.
Definitely. Save me.
Yeah. Good old Conwood says, congrats on making the 300 episode mark. Rand and Jez, I know you didn't do a live reaction stream, but what are your immediate thoughts during Developer Direct, and how have they changed after a day's passing? I think I became more... I ended up, after watching it a second time, I liked what I saw from Indiana Jones more. But all the rest I still really feel the same about Avowed, Hellblade, and the other two, like I don't care. But realistically for me, I just was more excited about Indiana Jones. Did any of your thoughts change, Jez? From, watching the show to like now talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I said earlier I was all in for Avowed, but Indiana Jones now looks like the most spectacular kind of game that not will just be fun, but also important for the platform. So I'm like really, really excited about Indiana Jones. I'm still excited for Avowed. Like I said earlier, I think I'll play Avowed first. But I think all the games there are games I'm going to play and games I'm going to enjoy. I'm not like Rand, who's just like, oh, I'll never play a 4X strategy game. So I'm like literally going to play all the games because I actually like gaming.
And you're literally not going to finish any of them.
Games to be cool. I'm going to finish all of them, bro.
Sure. I mean, maybe you'll finish Hellblade because it's only 8 hours, but.
Well, I'm gonna. Well, how long's Alan Wake?
Alan Wake is probably 20 hours, maybe 18, depending on. I mean, because I did everything in Alan Wake as well, so.
Someone told me, by the way, Ninja Theory is selling themselves short, and that it is longer than the original, like noticeably so.
Well, so do you think
someone
they're
who's
just setting people's expectations to expect at least the same length, if not more?
yeah, I think so. So I have heard that
I did see
it
people
is
like
more
saying
than the
like
original.
6-hour game, 1 year of dev for 1 hour of gameplay, or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. But they're a small team. You got to remember, and also they also moved. They also
Yes.
built and moved to a new studio.
And COVID wrecked them because they couldn't do any mocap during the time of that was going on. Like all that stuff was shut
Yeah,
down.
and it was, and also held up, moving the studio as well.
Yeah.
Britain's lockdown regime was aggressive, and you could even argue potentially that it was just overly aggressive. But that's just the reality of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Logan Meyer, he has a question. He says, "Hey guys, hope all's well. Think there's any chance Xbox would pay up to keep Pal World console exclusive or even acquire the studio? Game is putting up crazy numbers and could be their Pokemon or Genshin Impact if they play their cards right."
I actually think they're probably thinking that right now.
Really?
They're
You
probably
think
like,
so?
oh god, yeah. But there's also like they would have written a contract already. I would expect. I'm
Okay.
sure the devs want their game to be as successful as possible, which means PlayStation really, and Switch for that
Yeah,
matter.
and Switch.
Because obviously that game will be huge on Switch if Nintendo even allows it. I do wonder, man. Some of the designs are very bordering on, man. They're really skirting it here, man. Like those sheep at the start, they literally look like Wooloo from Sword and Shield. Literally the same. So it's kind of like, maybe Nintendo will be like, actually, we're not going to allow your game here. We're going to sue you instead. But yeah, I don't know. It's we'll see. But I think those contracts are probably already done. But clearly that franchise is going to be big. It's going to be a big deal, man. I'm really excited about that game actually. I'm not going to play it too much in early access because I kind of, this is what I do with early access games. I dabble a little bit and it's like, okay, now I'll wait for it to be finished because I want to experience like the finalized thing. But really huge potential in that game. Huge potential. But it is weird shooting a Pokemon with a gun. And they're not just like fantasy guns either. They look like real world guns. It is weird. It's such a weird game. Oh well.
All right, we have Aaron Schultz says, "Hi, Rand Jez. I've been listening to the podcast since 2020, and this week I just joined the Patreon to support after all the hours of content you supplied that got me through the work and long drives. What's your opinion on the controversy of first and third person perspective?" Whoa. I'm only 26-year-old, so I wouldn't know this, but was there similar discourse about GoldenEye 007 and the N64 being first person?
No.
I don't remember, obviously, all the way that back. But I mean, people getting motion sickness is a real thing. Like, I've gotten motion sickness in a first person game because I sat too close to the screen. And I also don't like it with the head bob. Some developers put in like a head bob to simulate the effect of the head going up and down. Yeah. I always have to turn that off.
Well, that's the thing. Increasingly, devs give you the tools to improve the experience when you do get motion sickness. Things like increasing the field of view, removing head bob, stuff like that, sitting further away from the screen. There are like ways to mitigate the effects of feeling motion sickness or having vertigo or stuff. Like I've got it from Sea of Thieves, back in the day, from sitting too close to the screen. Like when you like sailing through a storm or something. They've really improved that over time. But like when it first come out, like even before it came out, I was like, wow, this is a bit, it's a bit vivid, But so yeah, I appreciate people that are genuinely getting motion sickness, but honestly, the everyone on Reset Era now suffers from motion sickness. It's just FUD, man. It's just FUD.
All right. Let's see. SJ Dub says, "Hey, Rand and Jez, congrats on episode 300 of the Best Xbox Podcast. I know Jez hinted at it last week, but with Square Enix showing up yesterday, what are the odds we get Final Fantasy 7 and 16 in the nearest future? I have a PS5, but I'm holding out until they come to Xbox." I mean, I think 16 is a shoo-in. Absolute shoo-in. I don't know if it'll come this year. but like I 100% expect Final Fantasy to come to Xbox at some point, and that's not like insider knowledge at all. Like, because I don't know. I'm just saying like I think it's way more likely than the Final Fantasy VII Remix games, and I think with the repaired relationship between Square and Xbox, I think this is 100% happening. They'll put it on PC. They'll probably put it on Switch with at some point with the Switch 2, and it'll be on Xbox. I don't know if it'll be this year, but it'll happen. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I believe, will happen at some point, but I think if it does happen, it won't be this year. It'll be later. Because I would imagine Square would also want that game everywhere, right? So I think they'll happen. I think 16 happens before the other ones, though.
I honestly think, right, if Rebirth was launching on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation simultaneously, it would do numbers like Hogwarts Legacy this year. Or maybe not Hogwarts Legacy, but like Hogwarts Legacy, because it's.
I mean, if it was just PS5 and PC, it'd probably do numbers.
Yeah, but the fact that it's PC only and it doesn't seem the marketing for it is not very strong right now. I kind of feel like they're missing a trick, man. They're not marketing their games well enough, and they're not going broad enough. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the familiar comments of, "Oh, sales were disappointing. Sorry, guys.
Well, shareholders." They said like the sales of Final Fantasy 16 were within their expectations or whatever, but I think they could have been better. They just really like taking that PlayStation money, man, to pay for development of the game, right?
Yeah.
Even though I think it hurt the. I think it ended up hurting Final Fantasy as a brand overall.
I think it did too. Definitely.
Achievement says, I know you didn't tune into the ESO stream, but the new area is set in the same spot as Oblivion. They mentioned it was their first time in the area since 2005, and they said more content was coming later this year. Do you think they are setting this up for the Oblivion remake to drop sometime this year?
I mean, we've seen Blizzard do similar things where they link up expansions with content. Like when they dropped Diablo, there was this huge Diablo event in World of Warcraft, and even Warcraft Rumble, there was this huge Warcraft Rumble event in World of Warcraft 2. So it would kind of line up, I suppose. It's like cold marketing thing. I mean, it could definitely happen. I'm not someone who plays ESO, and I'm not that impressed with it. But like for fans of the franchise and people who play it, like that MMO has been supported extremely well. Like you can't take that away from what the devs have managed to achieve there. But yeah, it definitely could be. I mean, it would line up, it would scan, right?
Yeah. I mean, they probably should have did the Fallout 3 remake first so they could have it launch with the TV show or launch around the TV show, But I guess you do have to kind of bridge the gap between the next Elder Scrolls, which is probably 2028 or 2029. So an Oblivion remake, is that a tease from ESO devs that there is more Oblivion, like a remix coming, or are they just going to have more content in Elder Scrolls Online in that area? I mean, I do believe the Oblivion remake is real, so maybe they're just talking about that.
Yeah, I'm really quite looking forward to that. Oblivion was the first Bethesda experience I experienced, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Says, good day, good sirs from Fantasticals. Not only did Microsoft add Resident Evil 2 to PC and Xbox Game Pass, they also went ahead and turned it into a Play Anywhere title, which is something they have never done before as far as I know. Is this something we will see more often in the future? Maybe it's only possible
what was
because
a Play Anywhere title?
Fantasticals is saying that Resident Evil 2 is a Play Anywhere title now on PC.
Oh.
I don't know if that...
They actually have done that before.
Have they?
Resident Evil 7, believe it or not, is a Play Anywhere title. So it's not... It's the first... It might be the first time they've done it after the fact, though. And I do know Microsoft... I mean, one of the things Phil said in my interview with Phil back in the day, it was like last month, wasn't it? Or the month before. When did I interview Phil? I can't even remember. It was like November, wasn't it, or something? one of the things Phil said was they needed to do better with cross-play and cross-save, and that's a big deal for Microsoft, because one of the ways you can get people locked into the ecosystem is giving them buy one digital copy and then play it on any platform you want, right? And that's why I think like Microsoft's not as worried as maybe other people are about them going broad, because they've got this concept of, letting people buy once and then play on any platform, cloud, phone, tablet, PC, whatever, using the same license. And I think like one of the things that, going multi-platform could help them subsidize is being like, trying to convince developers to support that, the cross-platform compatibility stuff. So I didn't know they'd done that with Resident Evil 2. I think it might be the first time they've done it after the fact. That's really intriguing. But it does seem to be a feature intrinsic of Game Pass, where if you're on Game Pass, probably most of the time, you're probably going to be playing anywhere as well. I think it's part of the package deal, But I'm actually going to install Resident Evil 2 on my Asus ROG Ally. So thanks for letting me know that.
Yeah.
Because I never actually fully finished every scenario. So I did a couple of them.
I mean, I did what the Leon scenario and the Claire scenario. Yeah.
That's the way I was doing it.
Even though it was mostly the same, just some slight changes here and there.
Yeah, it was like that back in the day too, I think.
And there was bigger changes, I think, back in the day, but.
Oh really?
I think there were.
So they've. Damn.
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I played the original Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
James Wiseau says, so another great Dev Direct and lots to look forward to this year. What would your guess be for 2025 Direct? My perhaps overexcited guess would be Compulsion, In Exile, Playground, and the Coalition. I mean, yeah, I think it would be Compulsion, In Exile for Clockwork, Playground for Fable. I think would be there.
Is that for next year?
Yeah, next year. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I really want to see State of Decay, man.
Yeah, but would State of Decay be releasing in 2025 where they would have it at a Direct?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, it feels like forever they've been working on that game, and yeah, we haven't seen anything from it.
Yeah, so like Compulsion makes sense. Clockwork Revolution, Playground for Fable. That's 3 right there. Gears, it depends. I mean, if Gears is 2025, then sure. I mean, there's maybe your 4 right there from first party. That doesn't even add any of the Bethesda stuff. Like if id's got a game next year, like whether it's Quake or a new Doom.
Yeah.
You might already know what their Dev Direct is for next year. Austin says, congrats on 300, y'all. I've seen some people complain about Ninja Theory taking so long to make another 8 to 10 hour game. However, I kind of think Xbox let Ninja Theory be pretty experimental. Learning UE5 inside and out, mastering mocap, just in general, pushing the limits so other devs under Xbox can then use what Ninja Theory learns. Am I completely off base, or what's your take on that? If not, why'd they take so long to make Hellblade 2? COVID. It's like 2 years of dev time right there. COVID. That's why... COVID fucked everything. And I know people don't want to hear it in 2024, but yeah, I mean, you look at like...
That's history. That's what happened.
Yeah. So look at Indiana Jones. Like the Bethesda leak had it coming in 2022. So was stuff delayed 2 years because COVID lasted for 2 years? Maybe Hellblade 2, if there was no pandemic, maybe Hellblade 2 would have come out in 2022. Right? But it just seems longer because, there's the dev experience wasn't optimal, Yeah. Select Bang 007. What Xbox Game Studios game are we going to be playing in this first quarter? Nothing, sir. Nothing at all.
World, man.
Palworld's not an Xbox Game Studio game.
Bro, what's with the Palworld? Hey, man. Let's face it, Palworld is first party, bro. It's a first party game, bro.
Yeah, James Wetfield, is Xbox going to miss...
If Final Fantasy is a first party game on PlayStation, then Palworld's a first party game.
Is Xbox going to miss having a first party game for their first quarter? Sounds like it. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically February at this point, so seems like they won't have one. Omen says Obsidian
Not
just
Pablo.
released a new beta build on Steam for Pillars of Eternity 1. The devs said they would port it to GOG and Epic versions too, but do you know if that update is going to the PC Game Pass version as well? With Power Worlds also launching with an inferior version of Steam, it also makes me wonder if Xbox should put a feature parity clause in the Game Pass deals. What, Jez? Power Worlds is inferior to the Steam version? What's going on?
Are they talking about the dedicated server stuff?
I don't know. He just says Obsidian's releasing a new beta build on Steam for Pillars of Eternity 1, and they put it on GOG and Epic, but he wants to know if they're going to put it on PC Game Pass.
Oh, yeah, I think they will. Yeah, so I can't talk too much about this because I think it might partially be my fault. But a while ago in an article, I wrote that I complained about this in an article that Pillars was an example of a game that was better on Steam and inferior on PC Game Pass because I had a bug in Pillars on PC Game Pass where the 3D models like doors and chairs and stuff like that, they would follow me to the next screen, and then you wouldn't be able to interact with anything because there'd be like there'd be a quest item you need to click on, but you couldn't because a rock from the previous screen was overlaid on top of it. And Steam version didn't have that issue, and I complained about that in the article, and then a bunch of people from Microsoft reached out and asked me about that, and they are sensitive about this idea that the PC Game Pass versions of some of their games are less updated, and we've seen this with Death Stranding. Like Death Stranding doesn't have the DLC on PC Game Pass on the Microsoft Store, but it does on Steam. I can't what is it called? The Director's Cut Edition or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. So if you're playing Death Stranding on Microsoft Store or PC Game Pass when it was on there, you were getting a inferior version pretty much. But Microsoft is sensitive to that fact. So like, especially in the case of Pillars, because I complained about it and then Microsoft asked me about it. So I would expect that, yeah, if they are doing a new build for Pillars, it's because they wanna tie. It's probably because they expect that they might get an influx of new players with Avowed, and that they want to polish up some of the bugs and stuff. And I imagine that the Windows Store version will also get those updates. Okay. So yeah, don't worry about that. And in fact, I'll just ask him about it.
Yeah, just ask him about it.
Yeah.
Lee Sanders says 300. This is Xbox 2. So the game of the year comes out May 21st, but what about the first quarter? Why are all the rest of the games in the fall? What happened to a game a quarter? Indie looks great though. Man, a lot of questions about the game a quarter. And
there's always an aspiration.
I mean, but even still, Jez, Xbox is the one that talked about that multiple times. So
yeah.
It's on them, and that doesn't seem like they hit it, or something got pushed, and people are going to wonder about that, especially if you're always talking about it. So
that's true. I mean, they made their own bed, but it will happen. And just give it a bit. I'm with Rand. I reckon Towerborn was probably what they were hoping for here. But shit happens. You can't guarantee these things because you don't know what's going to happen in game development.
Which is why I think they're going to have to start holding games. They're going to have to be like, this game's finished, and we already have all these games coming. We should just hold it and make sure that we have something for this time frame next year, right? I mean, Phil even mentioned in that email how 2022 was disastrous because they only had Pentiment, right? And they never want to have that again. So, yeah, I know, like, not having a game until Hellblade 2 sucks. But, it's infinitely better than what 2022 was because you got all these other games coming in the fall. And maybe Xbox is just going to have to do what Nintendo does sometimes. And it's like, all right, you're finished with South of Midnight? Cool. Guess what? You're holding it for 4 months. You're going to hold... Like, say South of Midnight's done in September and could release in October. Guess what? You're holding that until February, right? Because we need to cover our ass.
I think that's probably... I mean, Nintendo does that, so why not, right?
Yeah. Brian Roscoe says, congrats on 300 episodes to you both. If you had to choose, looking back, what would have been your favorite episodes or things you covered? And then what things are you most looking forward to covering or hoping to cover in the next 300? Wow. I mean, I always like it when we have like, COG on or Colt on, or like the FTC thing where we had a whole bunch of people. Cause remember that whole
Yeah,
thing? We
yeah,
were
yeah.
live when it broke that the judge dismissed it. Or there's stuff where like Halo was announced as a free to play game when we were live. Or when Mike Ybarra joined us live for a podcast episode, right? Those are
Yeah, that was
always really cool. Like, what would I want in the next 300? I want Phil Spencer on here. Not as like a
yeah. I love
15-minute,
Silk
not
Spec.
in like a 15-minute conversation. I want Phil on here for an hour. I would like to have Sarah Bond on here. I would like to have Aaron Greenberg. Other people from Xbox, right? I can't wait to cover Hellblade when that comes out on here, right? So, yeah, do more interviews with Xbox 2+1 people in the industry and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get on camera.
Get on camera. That's something to look forward to. Sick and Tired says, congrats on 300, boys. The best Xbox pod there is. The only one that I originally listened to and actually get bummed out when I get up on a Saturday morning here in Australia to find it's not on. Yeah, that's on us sometimes. What is it about Microsoft and Xbox leadership that they always find the rake to step on? Whenever things seem like they're back on track, they do or say something that just throws it all in chaos again. From the Xbox One after the success of the 360 onward, one head-shaking moment after another. For all the communication that Microsoft does with this player base, if they actually put their ideas across many of those in the community like you two, they would probably save themselves some drama. Oh, and Vegemite is better than Marmite, Jez.
Vegemite's a cheap imitation of the glory of Marmite, but yeah, Microsoft puts their foot in it sometimes, but also there's business realities that Microsoft has to face up to now.
Yeah.
Like this whole ABK thing might be a be careful what you wish for, because now they're at the executive leadership table as their own division, they've got a whole different set of rules to play by, and one of those rules is, well, we're a software company and software goes on every platform. That's where the margins are. That's what we do with Office. That's what we do with Windows.
It might
or
be.
our apps. OneDrive is not exclusive to Windows. It's on iOS. It's on Android. And Apple even puts iTunes on Windows. So that's how you make money in software. So there's a completely different philosophy that's being whispered into Phil's ear right now. And yeah, it's going to look different. I think it is going to look different. It's going to look very different to what PlayStation does in the near term. It's going to look very different to what Nintendo does in the near term. And I think PlayStation and Nintendo will benefit from Xbox's shift away from exclusivity, but I still think they're still going to make hardware. They're still going to innovate in hardware, and they've got some really heavy caliber bullets in the chamber for the next couple of generations. One of them is artificial intelligence, which I know gets eye rolls right now, and it's going to be a big deal for gaming. It's going to be a really big deal. People are going to be playing games that have artificial intelligence dynamic elements in them, whether it's user generated content, whether it's stuff like Minecraft, making your own games within games, or just advanced artificial NPCs, and also more rapidly expanding games. God knows what it's going to look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess you could say like
also, I think
sometimes Xbox
good.
takes like one step forward and 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward and a step back or whatever. But some of it's like Microsoft communicates more than any of the other two brands. Like Nintendo is very silent. PlayStation is very silent. So when you always have people talk about stuff, sometimes they can put their foot in their mouth more often than other times. And yeah, there's just changing business realities that sometimes you have to deal with, right? The industry is always changing, probably forever changed, and it just won't ever stay static. So, like, I know people look fondly back on the 360 gen and all that entailed, but, the business has changed. Things take a lot longer to make. They cost more money. You just spent $80 billion of Microsoft's cash, and they probably are looking at like, we want to start making money right away. What are we going to do? So, yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, because I have that
Xbox will make loads of money and be profitable.
Yeah, but I don't care about that, bro. It's
Yeah,
not.
but I mean, it's not gonna lead to a situation where we lose our games, is what I'm saying.
Sure, sure.
It'll just, yeah, we might not be able to, brag about having exclusives anymore. But who really cares about that?
A lot of people, Jez.
PC gamers don't care.
Yeah, PC gamers, they don't.
Drive the industry, bro.
No, they don't.
They do. PC is the fastest growing segment of gaming right now.
Mm.
It's growing faster than mobile. It's not as big as mobile, but it's growing faster than mobile.
09C Mine says, congrats on 300 episodes. Here's the 300 more. Xbox already said that there was unannounced games releasing in 2024. Other than the ones at the Direct, which other games do you think may release this year? Well, Indiana Jones could have been one of those. Well, actually, that was unannounced. That was announced, but I mean, like I said, Forza Horizon 6, that is coming up on 3 years. Gears Collection rumor. If Gears is coming out in 2025, it has to be this year. But, obviously Gears could be 2026, so maybe it's next year. So those would be like 2 unannounced games that could potentially launch. Oblivion remake, unannounced, that could essentially come out. So there's a few to choose from. The question is, will they actually, come out? Which we will find out at probably the summer showcase if there are any more. Development happens. Sometimes games get pushed. But either way, those are all the questions, Jez, I believe. I think we hit them all. Let me just double check to make sure. Let's see. Oh, we got one from Donataku. We used to make fun of Inside Xbox because they showed up with no games to show and it was basically useless. Now Xbox has so much content, including Game Pass drops, that a monthly Inside Xbox could be amazing now. Do you think they should revive it? No, I don't think they should.
No, I don't think they have that much content.
Yeah.
This is good. This is what they've got now. This is good.
What they got now is good. You don't need to do a monthly Inside Xbox because then you would still have to fill content.
They've got the podcast for that.
Yeah, they do have the official Xbox podcast.
Yeah.
But either way, you know what? We are basically done with the show. We got Donataku Super Chat. Upgraded my 360 Ti to 4070 Super. Just put an avatar when I got at 20 FPS on Ultra. Now I'm 60 FPS. Let's effing go. J Primo, member for 42 months, says, happy 300. I'm drinking one for you. Tropa says, Rand, if you're still in the 2D side-scroller Metrovania mood, I'd recommend either Ender Lily's Quietus of the Knights or Fist, Forged in the Shadow Force. Fist is on Game Pass. Both are amazing. I actually have that downloaded, so I might actually check it out. And
I've heard good things about Ender Lilies. As
for the poll, 55% of you out of 1,116, 55% said it was an A, the Direct. 34% said it was a B. 8% said it was a C, and 3% said it was a D. So, more than half of you thought the show was really good. But anyways, that's been episode 300 for Xbox 2. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. And we will be back, what is it, Friday next week with the last episode of January, Xbox 2. Hope you guys have a great weekend. If we have a guest for Tuesday for Xbox 2 plus 1, we'll announce that at some point. If not, we might do an Xbox Ultimate. But either way, hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend. Love you guys. Thank you for being here for 300, and we'll hope to see you for another 300 more. And keep it gaming, everyone.
And keep your physical dicks clean.
Yeah, keep your physical dicks. Later.
Check out manscaped.com.